Welcome to Time Before Us, the channel where ancient history breathes again. Before time had a name. Before the first human breath, there existed a world fierce, forgotten, and alive. Creatures of scale and silence, predators wrapped in feathers, titans that shook the earth, lives erased, bones buried beneath eternity. But they are not lost. They are waiting. This is Time Before Us, where prehistory worlds rise again, and the stories buried in stone finally speak. Chapter 1: Dawn of the Mesozoic. The first mornings of the Triassic dawned with a strange stillness. Imagine standing on one of Pangaea's riverbanks as the sun rose above a horizon unbroken by cities or human sound. The light would spread across vast plains painted in reds and browns, the sandstone earth glowing under its warmth. You might hear nothing at first, only the breeze sighing through scrubby plants that clung stubbornly to life. But if you listened carefully, you would notice tiny stirrings, the flutter of an insect's wings, the cautious splash of an amphibian retreating into water, the slow crunch of some reptile moving across pebbles. In these quiet landscapes, survivors of the Permian clung to fragile routines. They had endured the most catastrophic event Earth had ever known. An extinction so brutal that 9 out of 10 species had vanished. What remained were hardy, adaptable creatures, many small and inconspicuous. Crocodile-like archosaurs basked in the heat, lizards darted between rocks, and amphibians rested half-submerged in ponds, their eyes glimmering just above the surface. Their presence filled the silence with subtle rhythms, nothing like the deafening roars we often imagine when we think of the age of reptiles. The earth itself still bore scars. Across Pangaea's vast deserts, winds carried fine dust that settled over everything. Forests were patchy and thin, mostly dominated by conifers with needle-like leaves that could withstand the dry climate. Ferns carpeted river valleys, their green fronds unfurling like cautious flags of recovery. And here and there, cycads appeared, plants with thick trunks and crown-like leaves that gave the land an otherworldly look, as if nature had reinvented the idea of trees from scratch. What's striking about this time is how peaceful it would have felt compared to what came later. Without large predators yet dominating the land, the early Triassic was quieter, gentler. The sounds you'd hear at dusk might not be roars, but instead the soft chorus of insects and the trickle of water moving over stones, frogs and air. Even the first reptiles of the age, the precursors to dinosaurs, moved softly through the undergrowth, their footsteps no louder than the shifting of leaves. And yet, beneath that calm, there was tension. The earth had pressed a reset button, and evolution was experimenting furiously. The lineages that would later dominate dinosaurs, mammals, crocodiles, turtles, all traced their roots to this fragile moment. It's astonishing to think that the future kings of the planet began not as thundering giants, but as small, almost invisible creatures blending into the shadows. The rivers of this dawn carried life forward. Fish swam in quiet schools, their silver scales catching sunlight beneath the surface. Dragonflies, some with wingspans as wide as your hand, skimmed above the water, the steady beat of their wings joining the soundscape of this new world. At times you might hear the plop of something larger entering the water, a temnospondyl, one of the great amphibian survivors of the extinction. These were hulking creatures, part crocodile, part salamander, lurking just beneath the surface. They made no thunderous movements, only slow ripples and quiet splashes as they hunted fish in the shallows. Farther inland, silence stretched across open plains where the heat shimmered. Herds of small reptiles padded quietly across dusty ground, their tails dragging faint lines behind them. They paused often to bask, soaking up warmth, conserving energy. Life here had to move carefully. Food was scarce, water scarcer still, and every step carried risk. But in that fragility lay a deep calm, a patience that shaped everything. What's beautiful about imagining this world is how slow it must have felt. Days unfolded not in chaos but in rhythms, sunrise, heat, dusk, nightfall, each bringing its own gentle symphony of sound. When rains came, you'd hear the soft percussion of drops against fern leaves, the rush of water swelling rivers, the croaks of amphibians echoing louder in celebration. When winds swept across the land, they whispered through forests, bending conifer branches with a hiss like ocean waves. At night, under skies unspoiled by artificial light, the stars would blaze more brightly than most of us can imagine. The Milky Way would stretch across the heavens like a glowing river, mirrored in the dark waters of prehistoric lakes. The sounds of the night were delicate but rich, insects buzzing, small reptiles rustling through dry leaves, the occasional splash of an amphibian returning to water. There were no mammalian calls yet, no bird songs. Those would come later. For now the music of Earth was reptilian, insectal, elemental. But here's the quiet secret of the dawn of the Mesozoic. It was not a place of finality, but of possibility. Every small lizard, every cautious amphibian, every fern rising from ash carried within it the potential for transformation. The calm of this world was not emptiness. It was a pause before the crescendo. And if you had stood there, listening, you might have felt it too. The hush wasn't just silence. It was anticipation. Chapter 2. The First Forest of Giants. Imagine walking into a forest where the trees don't just tower above you, they dwarf you into insignificance. These weren't the oak, birch, and pine woods we know today, but something altogether stranger. Conifers with trunks as wide as a room stretched upward like living pillars. Cycads, plants that looked like a mix of palm tree and fern clustered in groves, their thick, crown-like leaves spreading outward like prehistoric umbrellas. And beneath their canopy, the ground shimmered with low carpets of ferns, horsetails, and mosses. This was Earth's great comeback act. After the near sterility of the Permian deserts, the Triassic forests rose like green cathedrals, vast, echoing halls of life where the planet quietly healed itself. Sunlight streamed through the branches in fractured beams, warming the soil and feeding the leaves. The air itself was heavy, humid, and perfumed with resin and dampness. Every step into this environment must have felt like stepping onto another planet, one familiar and alien all at once. What's remarkable is how strange these forests would seem to modern eyes. The plants that dominated them weren't flowers or grasses. Those hadn't even evolved yet. Instead, the giants were gymnosperms, trees and shrubs that reproduced with cones instead of blooms. Conifers spread their needles skyward, some rising more than 30 meters tall. Cycads looked like armored palms, their trunks thick and scaly, their leaves rigid and spiky. Horsetails, which today rarely grow higher than your knee, sometimes reached the height of small buildings. The landscape seemed exaggerated, as though nature were sketching rough drafts on a massive scale. Step into the forest and pause. At first, you might think it was silent. But wait, and the quiet begins to reveal itself as something richer. The buzz of dragonflies darting through beams of sunlight, the rasp of cicada-like insects vibrating their calls through the thick air. A rustle, quick and fleeting, betraying a small reptile darting through the leaf litter. The faint creak of branches swaying against each other. This was not silence. It was a softer kind of music, layered, subtle, endlessly patient. These forests, for all their grandeur, radiated calm. They weren't bustling with birdsong or mammal cries yet, because neither had appeared. Instead, their soundscape was dominated by the steady rhythms of insects, the splash of amphibians in shadowed pools, the cautious footsteps of small reptiles. Even pterosaurs, the first true masters of the skies, passed overhead with only the faint creak of leathery wings. It was life at a lower volume, but no less alive. And yet, these forests carried scars. Fires were frequent. Lightning storms ripped across Pangaea's interior, igniting dry stretches of woodland. When flames rolled through, they devoured with frightening speed, leaving behind blackened trunks and ash. But the forests were resilient. Ferns were often the first to return, carpeting the ground in a lush green after each fire. Conifers followed, sending roots deep into the soil, reclaiming their place. Regrowth was slow, but unstoppable. These were forests forged in trial, learning to endure catastrophe after catastrophe. What makes them even more extraordinary is how they reshaped the planet. With their vast leaf surfaces, trees pulled carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, slowly cooling Earth after the instability of the Permian. They pumped oxygen back into the air, thickening it, refreshing it. Their roots locked fragile soils in place, reducing erosion, giving rivers stability, and allowing wetlands to form. Their fallen branches and cones nourished the ground, feeding fungi and insects, creating miniature ecosystems beneath the canopy. Each tree wasn't just a tree, it was an engine of transformation. And in their shadows, animal life began to experiment. Tiny proto-dinosaurs crept along the undergrowth, their bodies built for agility and speed. They weren't the thunderous giants of later ages, but quick-footed creatures that tested new ways of living: group hunting, endurance, and constant movement. Their soft footsteps added a whisper of presence among the ferns. Early herbivorous. Reptiles tested new diets, nibbling at cycads and tearing fronds from horsetails with teeth built to grind vegetation. Small mammal-like reptiles scuttled at night, hiding in burrows at the bases of trees. The forest floor wasn't crowded, but it was steadily filling with possibilities. Picture twilight in one of these groves. The last beams of light slant sideways through the branches, painting the forest in gold and shadow. The air cools and the sounds shift. Insects hum louder, turning dusk into a chorus. Frogs croak from hidden pools, their calls echoing softly in the distance. Somewhere deeper in the shadows, a branch snaps under the weight of something small moving unseen. Above, a primitive pterosaur flaps slowly across the canopy gap, silhouetted against the fading light. This is no chaotic wilderness. It is a world, measured in rhythms, slow, steady, enduring. At night, the transformation is even more profound. Under a sky blazing with stars, the forest becomes a silver-tinted cathedral. The moonlight filters through conifer branches, casting long, still shadows across the ground. Fireflies, ancient ancestors of those we know today, flicker between ferns, painting temporary constellations in the air. The chorus of insects swells, joined by the croaks and splashes of amphibians. The forest is never truly silent, but it is calm, and its calm feels endless. The first forests of giants were more than scenery. They were stage and sustenance. Without them, dinosaurs may never have flourished, mammals may never have found niches to survive in, and ecosystems may never have stabilized after the Great Dying. They were the womb in which the future gestated. Perhaps the most humbling thought is this: if you stood in those forests, you wouldn't have seen dominance yet. No single creature ruled. No single sound defined the world. Instead, life was in balance, spread thin but steady, finding its footing again beneath the shadows of towering trees. The grandeur of these forests wasn't loud or violent, it was patient. They whispered, creaked, and hummed, shaping the world quietly but profoundly. And in that patience, they carried the promise of everything to come. These were the first forests of giants, green sanctuaries rising after devastation. Calm, guardians of possibility, cathedrals of time that gave shelter to creatures who, in generations yet unseen, would grow to rule the earth. And as the forests deepened, so too did the waterways that wound between them, rivers that carried the pulse of this ancient world. Lifelines that would give rise to whole new communities of life. Chapter 3. Rivers of the Ancient World. Close your eyes and imagine this. A soft breeze carries the faint scent of damp earth. The sky glows with a hazy orange light, the sun sinking. Low, scattering golden reflections on the rippling surface of an ancient river. Time itself feels slower here. You're standing not in the present, but in a world over 300 million years ago, a world where rivers were the lifeblood of landscapes, shaping valleys, nourishing forests, and guiding the destiny of creatures that would one day rule. The earth. The rivers of the ancient world were not just waterways. They were ecosystems in motion, vast arteries pulsing through green, endless swamps and forests of towering club mosses and giant horsetails. Their currents whispered stories of survival, of beginnings, of creatures daring to leave the safety of water for the strange, uncertain land. The river's surface glitters with life. Darting just below, shoals of early fish shimmer like liquid silver. Some of them are armored placoderms, bizarre, plated creatures whose heavy skulls look like nature's first experiments in defense. Others are lungfish-like animals, equipped with both gills and primitive lungs, able to gulp air when oxygen in the water runs low. In their resilience, you can glimpse a clue to the future. These fish carry the spark of innovation, the first. Whispers of a story that will eventually lead to reptiles, dinosaurs, and even us. On the muddy banks, amphibians crawl clumsily, their slick bodies glistening as they heave themselves from the shallows. Some are small, lizard-sized with bulging eyes. Others are giants stretching several meters long, with wide, gaping mouths waiting for unsuspecting prey. Their croaking calls echo across the reeds like a strange, prehistoric chorus. The rivers are both sanctuary and battlefield. Every rustle of a reed could be a rival. Every ripple on the surface might mean danger. But in these places, life is daring to experiment. Each attempt to move from water to land is like nature rolling the dice. Will this creature adapt, or will it vanish, forgotten by time? Now the camera drifts deeper into the current. Beneath the surface, a whole hidden world reveals itself. Strange, spiny fish drift slowly near the riverbed, their scales catching glints of fading sunlight. Shoals of primitive sharks patrol the deeper channels, their shadows gliding silently, menacingly. They are the apex predators of this underwater kingdom, and every creature knows to avoid their sudden bursts of speed. On the sandy bottom, early invertebrates scuttle trilobites, though fading from dominance, still cling to survival, joined by mollusks and the ancestors of crabs. Worm-like creatures twist through the sediment, cleaning, feeding, endlessly cycling nutrients back into the system. It is a river alive not just with big animals, but with 1,000 tiny, unseen lives, each as vital as the next dot above. Dragonfly-like insects, massive compared to today, hover and dart, their wings buzzing like living kites. Some have wingspans nearly as wide as a hawk's. They skim the water's surface in search of prey, casting fleeting shadows that ripple with the current. Their presence hints at a time when oxygen levels in the air were far higher than now, allowing insects to grow to astonishing sizes, move upstream, and the river changes character. Here, where rocks and roots break the flow, rapids sing against stone. Foam gathers in eddies, and the sound is a constant hush, like the earth itself. Breathing. This is where amphibians often lay their eggs, hiding them in sheltered pools among reeds and ferns. Tiny, jelly-like clusters cling to submerged plants, each containing the fragile beginnings of new life. Soon, the river will be filled with squirming tadpoles, reminders of how deeply tied these creatures still are to the water that birthed them. But look closer. Some hatchlings won't stay here. They will crawl beyond the shoreline, developing lungs strong enough to gulp air fully, their limbs sturdier for bearing weight. Step by step, generation by generation, these pioneers will carry their lineages farther from the water's edge. They don't know it, but they are the ancestors of reptiles, the first true land dwellers who will one day give rise to the mighty dinosaurs. It is almost poetic. Rivers, in their gentle persistence, are quietly shaping the course of evolution, and the riverbanks themselves, they're not quiet either. Imagine towering trees, but not like any you'd recognize today. Instead, forests of giant lycophytes club mosses stretching over 30 meters tall form green cathedrals along the water's edge. Their trunks rise like columns, topped with crowns of spiky leaves. Ferns and horsetails crowd the understory, while fungi taller than a person push upward from damp soil. Feeding on fallen wood, the air here is thick and humid, carrying the sweet, earthy scent of decay and growth. Each breath feels heavier, as if the forest itself is pressing close. And in that atmosphere, the river glimmers as a ribbon of life. Weaving through the green maze, small reptiles, the very first of their kind, shuffle cautiously among the roots. They are unlike the amphibians, for they carry their world with them. Their eggs, encased in protective shells, no longer need the water to survive. This small innovation will change everything. With eggs that can resist drying out, reptiles are free to roam further, to push into new territories where amphibians cannot follow. And it all begins here, by the ancient rivers. At night, the river transforms again. The last light fades, and the water glows with the reflections of a billion stars. The air cools, mist rising from the surface in ghostly swirls. Strange calls echo through the darkness, deep, throaty bellows of amphibians, the clicks and hums of nocturnal insects, the splash of something unseen slipping back into the water. It is a world of silhouettes and shadows. Large amphibians lurk at the edges, half submerged, waiting to ambush smaller creatures that wander too close. Insects thrum in thick clouds, some falling prey to fish leaping from the water in sudden bursts. The cycle of survival never stops, not even in the stillness of midnight. And yet, beneath the tension, there is peace too. The river flows on, unconcerned with the dramas of its inhabitants. Its current smooth stones feeds forests and carries nutrients downstream. It is timeless, eternal, the same rhythm that will one day carve the landscapes we know today. What makes rivers so powerful in the story of life? Maybe it's their constancy. They never stay still, yet they are always there. Flowing, guiding, connecting. For early life on Earth, rivers were bridges between worlds, the world of water and the world of land. Every amphibian that climbed the muddy bank, every reptile that dared to lay its eggs on dry ground, every insect that spread its wings in the heavy air, they all owed their chance to the rivers. These waterways nurtured them, challenged them, and gave them the opportunity to evolve. In many ways, rivers were nature's laboratories, testing new designs, refining survival strategies. Some creatures failed, disappearing into extinction. Others thrived, carrying their traits forward, leaving behind invisible fingerprints on the story of life. Without rivers, the history of Earth might have been very different. Perhaps amphibians would have remained trapped in their watery realms. Perhaps reptiles would never have risen. Perhaps the great age of dinosaurs would never have dawned. As dawn returns, the mist begins to lift. The river glows once again, golden under the rising sun. Fish flicker near the surface, insects skim the air, amphibians bask on rocks, reptiles shuffle through the undergrowth. The cycle continues, endless and ancient. It's humbling to think, every river we know today, every stream and brook and rushing current, carries the memory of these ancient waterways. They were the stage on which some of the greatest experiments in evolution were first performed. And though their creatures may be gone, their legacy flows on quietly, steadily, eternally. The rivers of the ancient world were not just water. They were the lifelines of creation, the first steps toward the unimaginable diversity of life we see today. And in their steady, gentle flow, they remind us that great changes often begin in the smallest ripples. Chapter 4, Night in the Triassic. Sun slips below the jagged horizon of a Triassic landscape. Daylight fades slowly, not with the rush of modern city sunsets, but with the unhurried rhythm of deep time. Golden light lingers on the treetops of giant conifers, painting them in shades of amber and bronze. Shadows stretch across the ground, turning rocky floodplains and fern meadows into pools of deepening twilight. The world is preparing to sleep, or at least part of it is. Because in the prehistoric night, sleep for some means opportunity for others. As dusk gives way to true darkness, the air changes. The daytime buzz of cicada-like insects fades, replaced by a subtler, more cautious soundscape. Gentle rustlings stir in the undergrowth. The wind carries a faint earthy scent, damp soil, decaying leaves, and the cool freshness of river water nearby. If you could stand here, surrounded by the Triassic night, you'd notice how alive it feels, even in darkness. Every sound hints at something stirring, something watching, something moving unseen. Look closely at the water's edge. Tiny ripples break the smooth surface of a shallow pond. Amphibians, the lingering heirs of an older age, emerge from their burrows. Their slick bodies glisten in the moonlight, their throaty croaks forming a chorus that echoes softly into the trees. These are not quite frogs as you know them, more primitive, stockier, with wide mouths that snap at gliding insects. Their calls overlap into a rhythmic pattern, filling the still night with a living pulse. The insects, meanwhile, are restless. Moth-like creatures flutter in erratic spirals around ferns, their wings catching faint starlight. Some emit faint glows, like sparks drifting through the dark, the ancient origins of bioluminescence. They dance in silence, yet to the creatures hunting below, they are lanterns, giving away their presence. Out on the rocky flats, small reptilian pioneers creep from cracks and burrows. These are among the earliest true nocturnal reptiles, their eyes unusually large to gather every shred of light. They scuttle carefully, pausing, listening, then darting forward again. Their world is one of constant alertness. Every shadow could be a threat. Every sound, a signal. They hunt smaller insects, but they themselves are prey to something larger. Listen closely. Do you hear it? A soft scraping sound. Something is moving among the fallen branches. The shape is low, cautious, its body hugging the earth. It is not large, no bigger than a house cat, but in the Triassic night, it is a formidable hunter. This is a small archosaur, perhaps an ancestor of future dinosaurs, and it moves with eerie patience. Its slender snout dips close to the ground, picking up scents left behind by insects or scurrying lizards. When it finally strikes, it does so in silence. A sudden lunge, a snap of jaws, and then nothing but the crunch of tiny bones. Above, the sky is unlike anything we see today. Without human light to dull it, the heavens blaze with stars, billions of them scattered like shards of crystal across black velvet. The Milky Way arches high, its band of pale light shimmering in perfect clarity. The moon, larger and brighter in the prehistoric sky, casts silver light across the land, carving shadows that stretch and shrink as clouds drift slowly past. The night is dark, but never empty. From the dense ferns, a new sound rises, a rhythmic rustle, heavy, deliberate. The hunter pauses, its head lifting, its body freezing mid-step. Something much larger is awake. Slowly, out of the foliage, emerges the bulky frame of a dicynodont, one of the last survivors of an ancient lineage. Its beaked mouth snaps at ferns, tearing them in slow, grinding motions. Though herbivorous, its presence dominates the clearing. In the moonlight, its leathery hide glistens with dew. Each exhale forms a faint cloud of vapor in the cooling air. It does not fear the small hunter. In fact, it hardly notices it. For now, this giant of the past and this predator of the future share the same darkened stage, separated by scale and diet, yet bound by the rhythm of survival. Elsewhere, a more unsettling sound drifts through the night, a low, resonant hiss. At the water's edge, hidden partly by reeds, a crocodile-like reptile lurks. It is older than the dinosaurs, a relic of primeval times, its eyes glinting just above the waterline. Motionless it waits. An amphibian ventures too close, drawn by a cluster of glowing insects. Suddenly, the water erupts. A splash, a snap of jaws, and the amphibian is gone, leaving behind only ripples that fade quickly into stillness. Silence returns as if nothing happened. In the trees, life takes to the branches. Early relatives of pterosaurs cling to bark with clawed fingers, their wings folded tightly around their bodies. Though clumsy on land, in the air they are graceful. And some are restless enough to test their wings under moonlight. With a leap, one launches into the night, wings spreading in a soft, leathery stretch. It glides silently across the clearing, swooping low before climbing again, its shadow slipping across the ground below. In this darkness, flight is a delicate gamble. A wrong turn, a sudden gust, and survival becomes uncertain. But for these early flyers, the air is freedom, and the night belongs to them just as much as to any hunter on the ground. The Triassic night has its own rhythm, periods of deep stillness followed by sudden bursts of activity. Predators strike, prey scatters, silence falls, and then the cycle repeats. It is a world balanced on tension, where even the faintest sound can mean survival or death. But to us, listening from afar, the night feels almost peaceful. The layered sounds, the croaks of amphibians, the rustle of leaves, the distant crash of something large moving unseen, blend into a kind of ancient lullaby. And yet, there are moments that break the calm. Imagine walking through this night, hearing the gentle chorus of amphibians, only for it to fall silent in an instant. The sudden absence of sound is louder than any noise. It means something is near. Perhaps a larger predator, perhaps a shift in the wind that carries your scent. The Triassic night is full of mysteries, and silence is one of its most chilling. Gradually, the hours pass. The moon rises higher, then begins its slow descent. Dew gathers thick on the leaves. Small creatures retreat to burrows, their bellies full from the night's feast. Predators, too, slink back into hiding, conserving their strength until the next hunt. The night grows colder, the stars wheel silently overhead, and the world seems to hold its breath. Then, the first pale light of dawn touches the horizon. The stars begin to fade, one by one. The moonlight softens, giving way to a faint glow of orange and pink. The night, with all its hidden dramas, begins to dissolve. The amphibians fall silent, the insects retreat. The archosaur hunter curls into its den. Soon, the daytime chorus will rise again, filling the world with a different energy. But for a few moments longer, the Triassic night lingers, a quiet, fleeting world of shadows, whispers, and unseen lives. It was a time when darkness did not mean emptiness, but another kind of life. A parallel world that thrived when the sun slept. And though we cannot hear it today, the echoes of those nights remain. In the croak of a frog at midnight, in the rustle of unseen animals in the dark, in the glitter of stars above us. The Triassic night, once alive with creatures long vanished, still speaks if you know how to listen. Chapter 5. The early dinosaurs. The early dawn spills across a land that looks both familiar and alien. The air is fresh, cool, and alive, with the faint chorus of insects. Mist clings low to the ferns and cycads, drifting lazily in the pale gold of morning light. This is the world of the early dinosaurs, not yet the colossal titans we imagine towering over forests, but smaller, quieter beings, woven into the ecosystem with a kind of cautious grace. They are not rulers here, not yet. They are simply part of a grand experiment of life, fragile and uncertain, yet remarkable in their persistence. If you stood here, in this Triassic clearing, you might be surprised at what you see. No thunderous herds shaking the ground, no predators roaring through the trees. Instead, a different kind of presence. Small, wiry dinosaurs with long tails and delicate limbs move with careful intent. Their eyes flick constantly toward the undergrowth, ears tuned to every rustle. These creatures, the first two dinosaurs, live a life of balance. Each step is measured. Every sound matters. In a world still dominated by crocodile-like archosaurs and sprawling reptiles, they must survive. By caution, not power. A group of tiny herbivores emerge from the mist, their heads low to the ferns. They are no bigger than turkeys, with slender frames and hands tipped with delicate claws, used to pluck soft leaves. Their movements are subtle, almost reverent, as they graze in the quiet. Occasionally, one raises its head, eyes sharp, scanning the horizon. They live in numbers for safety, each one a sentinel for the others. The sound of their gentle feeding blends with the background hum of ancient cicadas, a soft meditative rhythm that fills the prehistoric air. Nearby, at the edge of the water, another early dinosaur lingers in silence. This one is different, a cautious hunter, perhaps Coelophysis, one of the earliest carnivores. Slender, long-necked and agile, it waits with patience. The morning light reflects in its golden eyes, unblinking, watchful. Its breath is steady, its muscles tense but controlled. There is no rush. In this world, energy is precious, and every hunt must count. The hunter moves with the stillness of a shadow, placing each foot carefully so as not to disturb the ground. The rustle of ferns is softer than a whisper. It is a predator born not of brute strength, but of precision. This is the rhythm of the early dinosaurs, quiet grazers and cautious hunters, sharing the land in a delicate equilibrium. For every small herbivore bending its neck toward tender shoots, there is a carnivore watching, weighing the moment, deciding when to move. The scene is not violent, not chaotic, but strangely calm. Life continues under a blanket of awareness, a sense that danger is always close. But so is survival. The landscape itself holds the sounds of their world. The soft trickle of a stream winds through the clearing, its waters glistening in the new sunlight. Primitive frogs croak faintly from the shallows, adding their voices to the morning's chorus. Giant dragonflies hover lazily overhead, their wings catching the light like shards of glass. Somewhere deeper in the forest, a distant call echoes, not the roar of a giant predator, but the throaty bellow of an early reptile staking its claim. The dinosaurs remain still at the sound, their instincts sharpened by countless generations of survival. Then, slowly, they return to their movements. The day unfolds with a measured grace. The small dinosaurs wander further into the greenery, their tracks pressed lightly into the damp soil. Some pause to nibble at young shoots, while others flick their tails to shoo away buzzing insects. The predator, meanwhile, circles quietly through the undergrowth, never too close, never too far. It does not need to kill today, not yet. Hunger can wait. The patience of this world is its most striking quality. Life is unhurried. Every creature moves with purpose, yet nothing feels rushed out as the sun rises higher. Warmth spreads across the clearing. The mist lifts, revealing more of the terrain. Low ferns, cycads with palm-like fronds, and conifer trees casting long, sharp shadows. The air carries the earthy scent of damp soil and resin. It is a land both wild and calm, untouched by the thunder of modern imagination. For these early dinosaurs, peace is not an absence of struggle, it is the act of living within it. The grazers continue their slow march across the fern fields, and the hunters follow from a distance, weaving silently between the trees. Neither side dominates, neither side falters. They exist together, bound by the same quiet law of survival. Evening approaches, and the forest begins to glow with soft amber light. The grazers find safety among thicker ferns where their colors blend with the shadows. The predators retreat to the edges, their silhouettes fading into the trees. Crickets chirp their rhythmic song, blending with the low calls of reptiles settling in for the night. The day closes not with chaos, but with serenity. In the quiet dusk of the Triassic, you realize something profound. These early dinosaurs, though small and unassuming, carry within them the seeds of an empire. In time, their descendants will grow into giants, sauropods that shake the earth, predators with jaws that terrify, creatures of scale and feather and unimaginable size. But here, in this moment, they are still humble. They are whispers of a future world, living peacefully in the shadow of larger reptiles. And as darkness falls, the clearing grows still. The river continues to flow, the insects hum their steady lullaby, and the early dinosaurs drift into the shelter of night. Their story is not one of dominance yet, but of survival, quiet, steady, and enduring. It is in this stillness that their true strength lies, because sometimes the most extraordinary beginnings are not loud or dramatic. They are quiet, hidden in the calm rhythms of an ancient dawn, waiting for their time to rise. Chapter 6, Sounds of the Jurassic Skies. Close your eyes and let the world of today slip away. The hum of cities, the clatter of machines, the voices of people, all of it dissolves into silence. When the silence clears, a new sound greets you. A sound not of our modern Earth, but of an ancient one. Above you stretches a sky, vast and open, untouched by airplanes or human noise. This is the sky of the Jurassic period, nearly 150 million years ago. And here, the air is alive with voices, voices of creatures unlike anything we know today. The first thing you hear is not a roar. It is not the heavy call of some giant predator. Instead, it is the sharp, leathery flap of wings. A shadow glides across the ground below, a pterosaur. Its wings stretch wide, membranes of skin catching the wind. The sound is soft, like the rustle of a sailboat's canvas, but insistent, steady. Each beat lifts the creature higher until it circles, catching a rising column of warm air. From far away, a different sound cuts through the open air. A high, rasping cry, sharp, almost metallic, the call of another pterosaur staking its claim to this patch of sky. The reply comes, distant yet echoing, like voices in a canyon. The Jurassic sky is never quiet. It is full of competing notes, layered and interwoven like a wild orchestra. Drift upward, higher still, and you begin to hear the beating chorus of many wings together. Some large, heavy, pushing through the wind with effort. Others small, light, more like the fluttering of birds. Protobirds, the earliest relatives of the songbirds we know today, dart between the branches of a conifer forest below. Their wings whir with a speed that hums like the buzzing of insects, a new sound added to the sky. Listen carefully, and you hear their soft, throaty chirps, uncertain, primitive, but hints of the music that birds will one day perfect. The forest canopy below sways in the wind, tall conifers rising like green towers. When the gusts pick up, the branches whistle faintly, adding their own voice to the scene. And in those trees, creatures stir. A small feathered dinosaur, perhaps something like Archaeopteryx, clambers along a branch. Its claws scrape against bark, a faint scratching sound. It lifts its head, peers into the air, and lets out a harsh, cackling screech, part warning, part challenge. Then, with an awkward jump, it spreads its feathered arms and glides down to another tree. The air sighs around its feathers, whispering in a language that only wings can speak. Not all sounds are gentle. In the distance, a sudden commotion erupts. A flock of small protobirds explodes from the treetops, wings thrumming together in a wild rush. Above them, a predator circles. Its cry pierces the air, deeper, harsher, commanding. It is a larger pterosaur, perhaps a Ramphorhynchus, its long tail trailing behind. Its wings make a different sound, slower, stronger, each beat a push against the wind. The smaller creatures scatter, their voices chirp in frantically, a staccato of alarm. Yet the sky is not all predators and prey. Drift closer to the cliffs by the sea, and the mood changes. The sound of waves mixes with the calls of hundreds of pterosaurs nesting along the rocks. Their cries echo and overlap, a cacophony that seems chaotic but has its own rhythm. Some calls are short, sharp barks. Others are longer, warbling tones. Together, they create a kind of prehistoric seabird colony, alive with constant chatter. Young ones squeal from their nests, demanding food. Parents answer with throaty croaks, wings beating as they launch into the open air. The whole cliffside becomes an instrument, playing endlessly with no pause. Imagine standing here, listening. The crash of waves below, the slap of wings against the wind, the harsh calls bouncing from rock to rock, and every so often, the sudden hush when a predator flies too near, and for a moment, the entire colony holds its breath. Silence, sharp and tense, before the noise returns louder than before. But the Jurassic sky is not only about loudness. There are moments of quiet, too. Subtle layers of sound that only reveal themselves if you listen closely. The buzzing of ancient insects, their wings trembling as they float through shafts of sunlight. The distant rumble of thunder, hidden behind mountains, promising a storm. The gentle hiss of wind sliding through the needles of conifer trees, carrying the faintest smell of resin and rain. These are the background notes, the heartbeat of the sky. As the day begins to shift toward evening, the mood softens. The harsh cries grow less frequent. The wing beats slow as many creatures return to their roosts. The sky darkens to a deep orange, then purple, painted with the shadows of pterosaurs. Gliding home, their silhouettes cut across the last light of day, their wings whispering in long, graceful arcs. Night in the Jurassic brings its own sounds. The daytime chorus fades, replaced by subtler voices. Insects dominate now. Chirps, hums, rattles, a million small vibrations weaving together. In the trees, tiny protobirds murmur softly to one another, their primitive songs a fragile thread. In the dark, somewhere far above, a lone pterosaur glides silently under the moon, its shadow crossing the forest below. Only once does it call, a deep, rolling croak that echoes in the night, carrying across miles of still air. Close your eyes here. Imagine lying back against the ancient earth, staring up into a sky with no city lights, no airplanes, only stars brighter than we ever see today. And against that canvas, the sounds of life, wings, calls, whispers, flutters, paint a living picture of a world long gone. The Jurassic skies were not empty. They were full, alive, layered with voices. From the flap of leathery wings to the delicate hum of feathers. From the shriek of predators to the chatter of nesting colonies. From the rustle of wind in the treetops to the soft hush of night. Together, these sounds formed a symphony, the music of an earth still young, still wild, still discovering what it could become. And though those skies are gone, their echoes remain. In the calls of seabirds over cliffs today. In the flutter of pigeons rising from a city street. In the song of every bird at dawn. Each carries a note, faint but real, of the Jurassic sky. So the next time you listen to the world above you, to the wings and voices that drift across the air, remember, you are hearing not just the present, but the past. A past where the skies themselves were alive, where sound was survival, and where every beat of a wing told a story. This is the music of the Jurassic. This is the sound of the skies. Chapter 7, The Great Inland Seas. The story of the ancient world was not written only on land. While forests rustled with early dinosaurs, and skies filled with strange, feathered shapes, there was another world, vast, quiet, and immeasurably deep. It was a world of water. During the Mesozoic, enormous inland seas cut through the heart of the continents. North America, for example, was once divided in two by a shallow ocean stretching thousands of miles, the Western Interior Seaway. Similar inland seas appeared in South America, Europe, and Asia. These were not narrow rivers or coastal bays, but wide, shimmering blue expanses that looked like oceans in every sense, except that they were cradled within the land. Here, life flowed and breathed differently. Waves lapped against chalky shorelines, winds whispered across endless horizons, and beneath the surface, an entire theater of ancient sound and movement unfolded. Imagine drifting close to the water's surface. The air is warm, heavy with the scent of salt and organic life. Sunlight breaks into golden ribbons as it touches the water. You hear the steady rhythm of waves, soft, eternal, almost hypnotic. Somewhere, the call of a flying reptile echoes, a sharp cry carried across the sea breeze. Then you look beneath the surface, and the world changes completely. The surface symphony, at the very top of the water, life gathers in restless abundance. Schools of fish move like living shadows, their scales catching flashes of light as they twist in unison. When they break the surface, a faint splashing sound punctuates the otherwise calm atmosphere, a momentary ripple against the larger silence. Small marine reptiles skim just below the waves. Some are slender ichthyosaurs, darting forward like silver arrows, their streamlined bodies perfectly shaped for speed. Others are long-necked plesiosaurs, rising gently now and then to take a breath. When they exhale, the sound is startling. In the stillness, a heavy, wet burst of air, followed by silence as they sink again into the watery realm. Above them, pterosaurs circle, searching for fish near the surface. Their wings create a faint rush of air with every beat, and now and then, the sharp splash of a dive cuts through the tranquil rhythm of waves. The sea swallows these sounds quickly, but for a moment, the ocean's surface becomes alive with sudden activity before calming again. The mid-water realm deeper, the water grows cooler, the light softer and more muted. Here, schools of ammonites drift. Their spiral shells catch light as they float, their tentacles moving gently, pushing them through the calm. They pulse like tiny living balloons, each movement producing faint, rhythmic jets of water. Larger hunters move here too. Mosasaurs, powerful, lizard-like reptiles of the sea, patrol these depths. When they pass, their tails sweep in wide, fluid arcs, producing deep vibrations that ripple outward. Smaller creatures scatter before them. The silence of the mid-water realm is broken only by the low thrum of their presence, a sound you do not hear so much as feel. Shoals of fish split and reform as if part of one mind. Each turn creates a whispering murmur, the sound of countless bodies moving together. Their silvery flanks catch sunlight filtering from above, creating flashes like lightning within the blue haze. Every so often, the silence is pierced by the crack of a predator's strike. A mosasaur rushes forward, jaws snapping shut with a heavy, muffled crunch. The sea falls silent again, as though pausing to absorb the moment, before returning to its slow, steady rhythm. The coral gardens closer to shorelines and shallower platforms, entire ecosystems bloom. Coral reefs, ancient and strange, rise like cities of stone. Their surfaces are alive with texture. Sponges, bryozoans, crinoids, and small shellfish cling to every inch. Here, the soundscape is different. It is filled with tiny clicks, snaps, and crackles. Shrimp-like creatures pop against the coral. Fish nibble at surfaces, their teeth scraping faintly. The reef is not silent, it is a constant hum of small lives, a static-like crackle beneath the water. Brightly colored fish dart between coral towers. Some graze peacefully, while others flash territorial displays. The reef is both sanctuary and battlefield, alive with quiet drama. A small plesiosaur swims by, its long neck weaving between coral towers, searching for prey hidden within crevices. Its paddle strokes produce rhythmic, gentle swishes, the steady beat of an underwater traveler. Above the reef, sunlight dances. Rays shimmer across the coral in golden shafts. When clouds pass overhead, the light dims and softens, transforming the reef into a place of muted shadows. where every shape looks larger, stranger, almost otherworldly, the silent depths beyond. The reefs where the seafloor slopes down into shadow, a new kind of world begins. The water grows heavy, the pressure immense. Fewer creatures live here, but those that do move with deliberate slowness. Giant turtles drift like ghosts, their shells dark silhouettes against the blue. Sharks patrol, their movements graceful, predatory, yet calm. The soundscape changes. It is not busy, not crackling, but muted. A slow, almost inaudible heartbeat. The ocean here is dominated by silence. Only the occasional, distant rumble of tectonic movement breaks the stillness. Vibrations traveling from far below. Reminders that even in quiet, the earth itself is alive. Sometimes massive carcasses sink from above, the body of a fish, or a marine reptile, slowly descending into the depths. Here, scavengers gather. Small, blind creatures nibble away, their movements faint scratches in the quiet. In this place, time feels stretched, slowed, eternal. The shoreline eventually, the inland seas meet land again. Here, waves lap against sandy shores or chalk cliffs. The sound is soothing, familiar, a rhythm that has existed for millions of years. Birds and pterosaurs gather on the edges, their cries sharp against the rolling wash of surf. On some shores, mangroves and strange coastal plants line the waters. Edge, small dinosaurs approach to drink, their feet crunching softly on pebbles. Every so often, they freeze at the sudden splash of something moving just offshore. A reptilian predator lurking where land meets water. The air here is heavy with salt and life. Insects buzz, reptiles call. The shoreline is a meeting place of sky, land, and sea. Day and night on the seas. When the sun rises, the sea comes alive in golden light. The surface glitters, ammonites drift upward, and predators begin to stir. The calls of pterosaurs echo, and the reefs hum with renewed energy. But at night, the world changes again. The sea turns black, reflecting the stars above. Bioluminescent. Plankton flicker in the dark, tiny glowing sparks that drift like stars underwater. Each movement leaves trails of light, transforming the ocean into a glowing dreamscape. Night sounds are different, softer, the splash of a surfacing reptile echoes louder in the silence. The distant calls of nocturnal creatures carry farther. The sea feels endless, infinite, and utterly calm. The eternal rhythm. The great inland seas were not just water, they were cradles of evolution. Here, marine reptiles thrived. Fish diversified. Coral ecosystems flourished. The seas shaped life itself, just as surely as forests and deserts did. And though the inland seas are gone today, their echoes remain. The chalk cliffs of Europe and North America are built from the shells of microscopic creatures that once drifted in those waters. Every wave that breaks on a beach today is a continuation of rhythms that began millions of years ago. The sound of water, the hiss of surf, the silence of the deep, these are ancient songs. They were heard by ammonites and plesiosaurs, by turtles and mosasaurs, by every creature that swam in those vanished seas. And now, through imagination, they can be heard again. So close your eyes, hear the waves, feel the depth. Drift upon the ancient water. The inland seas may be gone, but their music has never truly faded. Chapter 8, A Forest of Giants. The forest breathes. Long before the sound of cities, long before human footsteps ever pressed into soil, there was only the whisper of ancient leaves and the low, resonant hush of wind weaving through towering canopies. This was no ordinary woodland. This was a cathedral of life, stretching across the Mesozoic landscape, where trees grew higher than modern skyscrapers, and where shadows moved in silence, not from passing clouds, but from the lumbering forms of creatures so massive, so gentle in their enormity, that their presence was felt more than it was seen. A forest alive with giants. Beneath the green ceiling of cycads, conifers, and ancient ferns, sauropods wandered. Their necks, long as rivers, swayed between trunks like living bridges. There, footsteps pressed deep impressions into the damp soil, creating pools where rainwater collected, turning the forest floor into a map of pathways, each footprint an echo of passage. Yet for all their size, their sounds were subtle low rumbles that traveled more through the ground than the air, vibrations felt in the chest of smaller creatures, in the roots of trees, and in the stones buried beneath layers of moss. If you listen closely, you can almost hear it, a distant, subsonic hum, rising and falling like the swell of a deep drum. That was the language of giants, inaudible to most but pulsing through the world like an underground river of sound. The day begins slowly here. At dawn, mist clings to the understory, drifting between tree trunks like ghostly curtains. Sunlight filters through in shafts, breaking the canopy into golden ribbons. Birds primitive, feathered creatures still clumsy in flight flit between branches, their chirps and calls filling the upper layers of the forest. Insects buzz in steady rhythms, wings shimmering like glass as they catch the light. And then, like an orchestra beginning with the softest of notes, the first deep vibration rolls through the earth. A sauropod steps into the clearing, its neck arcs upward, higher than the surrounding trees, searching for young leaves near the canopy. With a slow, deliberate motion, it strips an entire branch of greenery, the crunching sound of foliage breaking echoing faintly in the still air. Each movement is unhurried, purposeful, as though time itself bends around the patience of such giants. For them, the day is not measured in moments but in seasons, their lives stretching across centuries. As the giant moves, its body becomes a moving wall of shadow. Small animals scatter before it, tiny mammals darting into burrows, feathered dinosaurs skittering across roots, lizards flattening themselves against bark. Yet there is no fear here, only respect. For in this forest, size determines balance, and the giants, despite their enormity, bring more calm than chaos. The sounds of the forest shift with their presence. Where once there was only the buzz of insects and the songs of smaller creatures, now there is rhythm, the deep thud of a footfall, followed by silence, then another. Between each step, the forest seems to hold its breath, only to exhale again when the vibrations settle. This cadence, steady and eternal, is the heartbeat of the Mesozoic forest. Sometimes, when multiple sauropods move together, the air is filled with overlapping rumbles, a chorus of resonances that blend into one another until the ground itself seems to sing. Scientists believe these low-frequency calls could travel miles, carrying across forests, plains, and rivers, one herd speaking to another in a language of vibrations. Imagine standing in such a forest as a human observer. You would hear almost nothing, but your bones, your skin, even the air in your lungs would feel alive with tremors. It would be like standing inside a drum. Deeper in the forest, the scale becomes even more humbling. A herd gathers. Dozens of long-necked silhouettes weave between the trunks, each one a colossus moving with slow grace. Young sauropods only, half the height of their elders, stay close to their mothers, their smaller feet pattering softly in contrast to the thunderous steps of adults. Occasionally, a young one lets out a higher-pitched call, answered immediately by a resonant rumble from the herd. This gentle communication is constant, a net of reassurance stretched between every individual. The forest bends to their presence. Trees near the path lean and sway, some stripped bare of leaves, others toppled entirely by the accidental brush of a swinging tail. Yet even in destruction, life thrives. Fallen logs become nurseries for ferns and mosses, homes for insects and amphibians. The giants take, but they also give, shaping the forest as they pass through it, architects of the very ecosystem they inhabit. But the forest is not only theirs. Hidden beneath roots and foliage are other voices, quieter but no less important. Small insect-like creatures chirr in the leaf litter. Tiny mammals scurry in the shadows, their nocturnal instincts already whispering of another world that belongs to them in darkness. Theropods, the predators of this green cathedral, move cautiously between trees, their footsteps soft, their eyes alert. For even among giants, opportunity awaits, and a single mistake from a young sauropod could mean survival for another. Yet here, within the herd, safety is nearly absolute. As the day wanes, the forest shifts once more. The calls of birds soften, insects grow louder, and shafts of golden light stretch long and thin across the ground. Shadows lengthen, and the sauropods begin to settle. Some remain standing, their necks drooping low as they rest, while others fold their enormous limbs beneath their bodies, sinking into the earth with a slow, groaning rumble. The night is coming, and with it, a transformation. At dusk, the forest is no longer green and gold, but silver and blue. Moonlight replaces sunlight, seeping through gaps in the canopy, illuminating mist that hangs low like a blanket of smoke. Sounds shift again. The chirping of insects grows insistent. Frogs croak from hidden pools, and the occasional distant screech of a hunting predator pierces the stillness. Yet through it all, the giants remain calm, their low rumbles resonating like a lullaby, steady and unbroken. It is here, in the quiet of night, that the scale of the forest becomes most profound. Imagine standing at the base of one of these giants. As they sleep, your entire body dwarfed by a single forelimb, your head no higher than the curve of a single toe. Their breathing, slow and immense, fills the air with rhythm, a long inhale, a pause, and then a deep exhale that rolls like wind through the trees. To stand here would be to stand in the presence of living mountains. The forest of giants is more than habitat. It is memory. Every footprint pressed into the earth will remain for weeks, months, even years, until rain and new growth erase them. Every broken branch will feed insects and fungi. Every toppled tree will create light for new shoots to rise. And when the giants move on, another herd will follow, tracing the same paths, shaping the same world. In this endless cycle, the forest becomes timeless. It is never silent, but never chaotic. It breathes, it sings, it resonates. And through it all, the giants walk living shadows that remind us of a world where size was not threat but balance, not terror but awe. Close your eyes now. Let the sounds of this ancient forest surround you. The rustle of leaves, the hum of insects, the distant cry of a predator swallowed by the night, and beneath it all, the steady, resonant heartbeat of the earth itself. These are the sounds of a world long gone, yet still alive in memory, the world of the giants who moved like shadows through forests older than time. And in that stillness, you realize the giants never truly left. Their echoes remain in the earth, in the stone, in the very forests we walk today. Every tree that sways in the wind carries a memory of them. Every vibration in the ground a whisper of their passage. The forest remembers that the giants endure. Chapter 9. Insects of the Prehistoric Night. The sun sinks slowly behind the jagged tree line of the Triassic and Jurassic forests. The sky, once painted in hues of gold and crimson, fades into a deep velvet blue. One by one, the stars flicker into view while the pale disk of the moon rises above the horizon, casting long shadows across the primeval land. With the fading of daylight, another world begins to awaken. The great dinosaurs retreat into stillness, their rumbling calls replaced by softer sounds of rest. Yet the forest does not fall silent. Instead, a new chorus swells into life, the hum, buzz, and rhythm of prehistoric insects filling the stillness of ancient evenings. Nighttime in the prehistoric world belonged to the small, the unseen, the many. Insects with their delicate wings, armored shells, and endless variety of forms dominated the soundscape. What the giant sauropods lacked in vocal calls, insects supplied in overwhelming abundance. To walk through such a forest after Dusk was to step into a vast and endless orchestra, where every tree, every bush, every patch of damp earth held its own musician. A faint vibration rises first, the steady pulse of early crickets, their wing stridulations rasping against the silence. Though smaller than their modern descendants, their rhythm is already familiar, a beat that humankind would one day hear. On summer nights, they rub their wings together, a sharp chirp that repeats over and over, forming a steady background rhythm. The sound is neither harsh nor loud, but together, thousands upon thousands of these tiny musicians fill the dark canopy with a shimmering wall of sound. From the canopy above comes a deeper drone, like the low whine of machinery, though no machine yet exists in this ancient world. It is the call of cicada-like insects, their bodies trembling as they produce long drawn-out notes that seem to vibrate the very air. Some sing in piercing tones that rise in waves, swelling and fading like the breath of the forest itself. Others click and rattle, each species adding its own accent to the night's composition. The effect is hypnotic, a soundscape layered with rhythms, tones, and cadences that seem endless in their complexity. Along the swampy edges of lakes and rivers, a different sound emerges, the high-pitched whine of early mosquitoes. They hover in thick swarms, drawn to the warmth and carbon dioxide of larger animals sleeping near the water. Their wing beats are thin, sharp, and constant, a sound that prickles against the ears. For the creatures that lie still in the dark, amphibians, small reptiles, perhaps even young dinosaurs, the irritation of these blood-seeking insects is part of nightly survival. Yet to the night itself, their whine is only another instrument. In the greater orchestra, glide deeper into the forest, and the buzzing grows richer. Large beetles, their wings hidden beneath hard shells, crawl along tree trunks before launching into the air with a heavy, droning hum. Some beat their wings slowly, producing a low vibration like the faint roar of distant thunder. Others take, often rapid bursts, their wing beats so fast they become a blur, filling the air with a rising whir that cuts quickly into silence. Above the canopy, dragonflies, some with wingspans as wide as a hawk, dart through the night sky. Their wings flicker like blades slicing the air. The sound is subtle but present, a faint whisper as they chase smaller insects in swift, darting motions. When they land, their transparent wings fold and click, catching the moonlight like glass. They are ancient hunters, unchanged for hundreds of millions of years, and at night their soft flight stills the buzzing beneath them. Occasionally, the night is pierced by something stranger still, the rattling of giant prehistoric katydids. Their bodies hidden in thick ferns, they scrape their wings to produce sounds like sudden bursts of static, irregular and surprising. Some calls are short and sharp, others long and rattling, echoing off the trunks of cycads and conifers. It is almost as if the forest itself is speaking in code, a language of chirps and rattles whispered to the dark. But not all sounds of insects are heard. Some are felt. Moths, their wings large and soft, move silently through the air, disturbed only by the faintest flutter as they brush against leaves. They gather around glowing fungi on rotting logs, their powdery wings reflecting starlight. Though their flight is nearly noiseless, their presence is part of the night's symphony, a reminder that silence too has its own rhythm. Look closer to the damp forest floor, and another rhythm pulses. Insects crawl beneath decaying leaves, clicking as their legs and bodies rub against bark and soil. Termites move in great numbers, their tiny jaws scraping wood in an almost imperceptible crackle. Ants scurry in lines, their movements soft but constant, as if the very ground is alive and shifting. These are the sounds that do not carry far, but in their subtlety, they form the heartbeat of the prehistoric night. As the moon rises higher, another kind of magic fills the forest. Small beetles, ancestors of modern fireflies, flash with faint, glowing signals. Their light is pale and unsteady, more like the shimmer of embers than the bright flashes we know today. Yet in the darkness of this ancient world, The glow is unmistakable. Here and there, across the forest floor and beneath the canopy, pinpricks of light pulse in the night, blinking on and off like a secret code. Each glow is a call, an invitation, part of an ancient dance. Though the glow makes little sound, it changes how the night feels. The chorus of buzzing, clicking, and humming is now bathed in soft living light, and the prehistoric forest becomes a cathedral of both sound and glow. For predators that move in the night, small lizards, mammals, even the first owl-like creatures, these insect sounds are maps. The rustle of wings reveals where prey has landed. The constant drone of swarms betrays the thickest gatherings. The rhythm of chirps leads them closer to their next meal. For them, the forest is not just noise. It is information, survival, and opportunity. Yet for those who simply listen, the insect symphony is more than survival. It is beauty. The overlapping layers of chirps, drones, hums, and buzzes weave together like threads in a tapestry. No two nights are ever the same. Some evenings are dominated by cicadas, their endless waves of sound rising like tides. Others are filled with the dry rasp of crickets or the erratic static of katydids. Weather changes the music as well. After rain, the air vibrates with new energy, the wet forest amplifying every note. In drought, the chorus softens, sparse but persistent, as if holding its breath for relief. As midnight passes, the symphony does not fade, it shifts. Some insects tire and grow quiet, while others emerge. New tones replace the old. Dragonflies vanish into the shadows, replaced by beetles that stir from burrows. The night is alive in constant renewal, a rolling wave of sound that carries from dusk until dawn. Finally, the eastern sky begins to pale. A faint glow seeps back into the forest as the sun approaches the horizon. Slowly, the insect chorus begins to quiet. The cicadas fall silent, their vibrations fading into memory. Crickets grow fewer, their chirps spaced out, hesitant. Beetles land and crawl back into hiding. Even the mosquitoes thin, retreating into the cool shadows. What was once a vast, overwhelming orchestra softens to a fading murmur. And then, at the very edge of dawn, the forest holds its breath. For a moment, silence reigns. The insects rest, waiting for another night. The chorus will return, as it has for hundreds of millions of years, and as it will long after the age of dinosaurs has passed. The prehistoric night may be forgotten in time, but its insects never truly disappeared. Their sounds, the hum of crickets, the buzz of mosquitoes, the rattle of katydids, still fill our evenings today. When we listen closely on a summer night, we are not just hearing the present. We are hearing echoes of the past, the same music that once filled the forests of the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous. The insects of the prehistoric night are still with us, whispering their ancient song beneath the stars. Chapter 10. Rainfall over the Mesozoic. The sky is never still. Even in the age of dinosaurs, when the land was ruled by titans and the seas shimmered with ancient reptiles, the sky remained the same restless painter it had always been, shifting in color, tone, and mood. On one quiet afternoon in the Mesozoic, the heavens began to change. Clouds thickened like strokes of gray paint smeared across a fading blue canvas. The warmth of the sun softened, dimmed, then gave way to a deeper stillness. The wind, once lazy and warm, began to carry with it a cool edge, brushing the forest with a whisper of what was to come. It starts small. It always does. A distant murmur of thunder rolls across the horizon, so faint at first that it might almost be mistaken for the low rumble of a herd of sauropods moving through the forest. But soon it returns, clearer this time, echoing against ancient cliffs, announcing that the clouds gathering above will soon deliver their gift to the land. And then comes the first raindrop. A single bead of water, tumbling from the sky, striking The leathery leaf of a prehistoric cycad with a sound so small it would be lost in any other moment. But here, in this vast silence before the storm, it rings out. Another drop follows, and then another, each one finding its place on ferns, on moss, on bare stone, on the armored back of a grazing ankylosaur. The animals lift their heads, sniff the air, and know instinctively what is about to happen. The drizzle grows. What was once scattered becomes a pattern, a gentle drumming across the forest canopy. The cycads bow beneath the droplets, their stiff leaves bending under the weight. Ferns unfurl further, their delicate fronds slick with shining beads of water. Streams, quiet and narrow, begin to ripple as the rain kisses their surfaces, sending circles that expand and overlap endlessly. The air cools, heavy with the smell of damp earth, resin, and wet greenery. Now the rain falls steady. It's no longer a whisper but a voice, clear, persistent, soothing. The sound is everywhere, filling the spaces between trees, echoing faintly. In caves, flowing through valleys like music. It is the same sound we hear today, for rain is one of the few constants that links our world to theirs. The rhythm of water on leaves, on soil, on stone. Dinosaurs move in this weather as naturally as we do. A family of small ornithopods, no larger than deer, scurry toward the base of a conifer where thick branches provide cover. They huddle close together, their feathers puffed slightly to keep the moisture from sinking into their skin. Not far away, a towering sauropod simply keeps walking. Drops strike its immense hide like the tapping of drums, sliding down the slopes of its body in rivulets. It doesn't notice, or perhaps it doesn't care. Rain is part of life, and its thick skin shrugs off the water with ease. The thunder speaks again, louder this time, closer, rolling across the land like the call of some invisible giant. A streak of lightning splits the horizon for only a heartbeat, illuminating the dark forest in silver light before vanishing. The rain quickens, drops falling faster, harder, creating a more intricate percussion across the forest. Each surface becomes an instrument. Hollow logs deepen the tone with hollow knocks. Broad leaves splash with higher notes. Soft soil absorbs with muted thuds. It is as if the entire forest has become an orchestra, and the storm itself is conducting. Water gathers in pools where dinosaurs have left footprints. What was once a dry trail through the undergrowth is now a series of shallow puddles, each one dancing with raindrops. Tiny insects skitter across the surface, their legs sending ripples outward that meet and vanish into the falling drops. Small amphibians emerge from their hiding places, drawn to the moisture. A chorus of ancient frogs adds their own voices to the rain song, croaking in sync with the thunder's roll. The smell now is overwhelming, a mixture of petrichor, resin from trees split by lightning in storms past, and the earthy sweetness of wet foliage. It fills the nostrils of every creature, great and small, signaling abundance. Rain is nourishment. Rain means life. Without it, these forests would wither, rivers would thin, and the land would starve. But with it, the Mesozoic world thrives. In the open plains beyond the forest, the rain takes on a different character. There are no tall trees here to soften its fall. Instead, it strikes the bare earth directly, raising a faint mist as the thirsty ground drinks it in. Small streams of water begin to snake across the surface, carving temporary paths that glimmer like silver threads under the dim light. Herds of hadrosaurs gather here, raising their duck-billed heads skyward to let the rain wash over them. Some shake their heads, sending sprays of water from their crests. Others lower their bodies to the mud, rolling slowly, coating themselves in a mixture of wet soil and rain to ward off parasites. Even in the storm, life continues with quiet ritual. Overhead, the skies are alive. Pterosaurs, caught in the sudden weather, adjust their broad wings to the shifting winds. Some retreat to cliffsides and rocky ledges, folding their wings tight as the rain slicks their leathery surfaces. Others remain aloft, riding the currents, letting the drops streak across their bodies as they glide. Their cries echo faintly through the downpour, sharp calls cutting through the soft roar of falling water. Night begins to fall, and with it, the storm deepens. The sky is a canvas of shifting black and silver as lightning flares in the distance. Each strike illuminates the land below for a heartbeat, freezing the world in ghostly white light. In those moments, the rain seems to hang suspended in the air, thousands of droplets caught mid-fall, sparkling like stars. Then darkness returns, and the rain continues its endless descent. Small predators use the cover of the storm to hunt. Their footsteps are masked by the rain, their scents hidden in the saturated air. One slips between the dripping ferns, its feathers clinging wet against its skin, eyes glinting in the flashes of lightning. Its prey, a lizard crouched beneath a fern, never hears it approach over the symphony of water. The hunt is silent. Swift and unseen by all but the rain dot. As the hours pass, the storm softens. The thunder rolls further away, its voice quieter now, fading into the horizon. The lightning grows less frequent until it too is gone. What remains is the gentle sound of steady rain, lighter now, more like a lullaby than an orchestra. The forest breathes again, calm and refreshed. Leaves, heavy with water, drip slowly onto the ground. Ferns bow gracefully, their fronds shimmering. Pools overflow into streams, streams merge into rivers, and rivers swell with new life, their currents faster and stronger. Dinosaurs stir from their shelters. The small ornithopods shake themselves dry, sending droplets flying into the air. Larger creatures emerge from the shadows, sniffing the refreshed ground for food softened by the rain. The great sauropod lifts its head to pluck at newly washed leaves, their surfaces glistening in the dim light. Even the predators come out, their scales gleaming wet, to drink from the swelling rivers that the rain begins to ease. The once constant sound lessens, turning from a roar to a murmur, then from a murmur to a whisper. Finally, only a few stray drops fall, lingering on the tips of leaves before releasing and striking the ground with a final delicate note. The clouds begin to thin, parting slowly to reveal a deep, star-filled sky. The air is cool, clean, filled with the quiet drip of water. From branch to branch and then silence returns. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of a world freshly bathed, renewed, and alive. The rivers run stronger, the soil is dark and rich, the plants shimmer with moisture, and the creatures of the Mesozoic breathe deeply of the air that smells of rain. This cycle will happen again and again for millions of years, until the dinosaurs themselves are gone. But the rain will remain. Rain has always been with us, falling on the first forests of the Devonian, nourishing the swamps of the Carboniferous, shaping the world in the age of dinosaurs, and still falling now on our own cities and fields. It connects us to them. The same drops that once slid across the hide of a Triceratops or splashed into the footprints of a Stegosaurus may still fall today, part of an endless cycle of renewal. In every storm, in every drizzle, in every gentle fall of water from the sky, the past and the present meet. And so as the Mesozoic night deepens, and the last drops fade into the soil, the world rests in the quiet aftermath of rain. A lullaby written not in words, but in water. Chapter 11, The Gentle Giants. The landscape of the Mesozoic stretches before us in a vast panorama of green and gold. The midday sun hangs high, warm but not harsh, filtering gently through the leaves of cycads and towering conifers. A soft breeze stirs the ferns that carpet the valley floor, carrying with it the earthy fragrance of soil and the distant whisper of water flowing in a hidden stream. It is a world alive not with chaos, but with a calm rhythm, a steady heartbeat that resonates through the land. And at the center of it all move the giants. The earth trembles faintly under their weight, not as a violent quake, but as a soothing, rolling pulse that settles into the body like the bass of a distant drum. Sauropods, immense, long-necked. Behemoths make their slow procession across the valley. Their necks arc like bridges of living muscle and bone, swaying gently from side to side as they reach into the treetops. With every step, their colossal feet press into the soil, leaving behind deep impressions that will harden into marks of their passage. Yet for all their size, there's no violence in their movement. Each stride is deliberate, unhurried, as if. The giants measure time differently from all other creatures. Around them, the land responds to their presence. Birds, primitive, feathered pioneers of the sky, flutter from branch to branch, their wings flashing like sparks in the sunlight. Small mammals scurry through the underbrush, quick but unafraid, for they know these giants bring no threat. Even the insects hum more steadily, as though their song bends to the slow rhythm of sauropod footsteps. Herd of Diplodocus moves like shadows across the green plain. Their tails trail behind them, long and whip-like, dragging lazily across the earth before rising to sway in the air. Their deep, resonant rumbles vibrate through the valley, low calls that pass from one giant to another like notes in a song. It is not just communication. It is reassurance, a reminder that each member of the herd is present, safe and moving together. Nearby, smaller herbivores graze in the shadow of the giants. A group of Stegosaurus moves carefully between cycads, their plates catching the light in shifting shades of red and orange. Their tails swish lazily, not in aggression, but as a soft counterbalance, a part of the gentle choreography of feeding. Each bite is deliberate, the tearing of fern fronds and cycads, punctuated by the occasional crunch of tougher stems. The sounds are steady, like the rustling of parchment or the slow tearing of cloth, blending seamlessly with the symphony of the valley. Hadrosaurs gather at the edge of a shallow lake, dipping their bills into the water and pulling up strands of soft vegetation. Their voices, nasal trumpet-like calls, rise occasionally into the air, not in alarm, but in quiet conversation. One calls and another answers from across the group, the sound echoing like a gentle horn across the water. The lake itself reflects the sky in shimmering silver blue, broken only by the ripples of movement as the hadrosaurs wade deeper, their tails swaying behind them in graceful arcs. Fish dart in startled flashes of silver as their heavy legs disturb the silt, but soon settle again, weaving through the aquatic plants that sway gently below the surface. The air is alive with sound, yet none of it feels harsh or chaotic. The calls of the herbivores, the rhythm of their footsteps, the rustle of leaves as sauropod necks brush past, all weave into a tapestry of calm. It is as if the valley itself breathes in unison with its inhabitants. High above, pterosaurs glide silently, their shadows sliding over the ground like fleeting clouds. Occasionally, one dips low, skimming across the lake's surface before rising again, its wings beating. Only once or twice before resuming its effortless glide. They, too, seem drawn into the tranquil rhythm of the giants, their flight paths looping lazily, never rushed, never hurried. The giants' presence is not only seen and heard but felt. Standing in the valley, one senses the scale of their lives, their immense patience with the world around them. A sauropod lowers its head to strip leaves from a tree, and for a moment, the forest bends with it, the branches swaying as though bowing in reverence. When it exhales, a warm cloud of breath rises into the air, catching the sunlight before fading into invisibility. Even this simple act carries weight, as though the land itself leans closer to listen. From time to time, one of the Diplodocus stops to rest, its massive body lowering carefully to the ground. The earth sighs beneath it, a sound like a distant drum roll muffled by moss and soil. Others gather nearby, forming a protective circle without any need for words or signals. The instinct to care, to protect, flows as naturally as the blood through their veins. There is safety in their size, but there is peace in their unity. As the day deepens, the light shifts. Shadows stretch longer across the valley, and the air cools with the approach of evening. Yet the herds remain calm, continuing their endless cycle of feeding, walking, and resting. Their patience is unshaken by time. They are creatures built, not for speed but for endurance, for lives measured in decades, perhaps even centuries. For them, each day is not a race against time, but a slow unfolding. Like the blooming of a colossal flower, a pair of young sauropods wander slightly away. From the herd, their movements clumsy but curious. They stretch their necks upward, mimicking the adults as they attempt to reach higher leaves. Their squeaky, uncertain calls contrast with the deep rumbles of their elders, yet even here the harmony remains. A mother's head dips low, brushing gently against one of the young, a gesture of reassurance that echoes louder than any sound in the distance. The faint silhouette of mountains catches the dying light. Between the peaks, a river glitters like a ribbon of silver, winding its way through the land. Some of the herd begin to move in that direction, guided by instinct toward water and open space. The sound of their migration builds slowly, not in chaos but in steady rhythm. The ground vibrates faintly under their collective steps, the deep, resonant bass of their existence spreading outward through the valley. Other creatures respond to their passing. Tiny lizards scuttle into burrows. Insects shift their droning pitch, and even the trees seem to whisper as the wind is pressed aside by their immense bodies. Yet none of it feels fearful. The giants move not as conquerors, but as guardians, reshaping the land with quiet inevitability. As night begins to descend, the sounds of the valley soften. Crickets take up their chorus, blending with the lingering rumbles of the herds. Fireflies, their ancestors glowing faintly even in these ancient times, drift through the air like sparks. The silhouettes of the giants move against the twilight, vast shapes merging with shadow. Their presence more felt than seen. One last deep call echoes across the land, a low, resonant note that seems to sink into the earth itself. It is a song of belonging, of connection, of peace. And as the stars emerge one by one in the ancient sky, the valley settles into its nighttime rhythm. The gentle giants lie down together, their immense forms rising and falling with the rhythm of breath. Around them, smaller creatures find safety in their shadow. The night belongs not to predators or storms, but to peace, a living symphony carried by the steady heartbeat of giants. Here, in the presence of these titans, the world is calm. The earth remembers them not as destroyers, but as keepers of harmony. And even millions of years later, when only their bones remain, the echo of their footsteps lingers in the soul of the land, a rhythm of peace, a song of the gentle giants. 12. Lakes of stillness. There are places in the prehistoric world where time itself seemed to slow down, where the chaos of life, the hunts, the storms, the migrations, all faded into silence. These were the lakes of stillness. Wide, mirror-like expanses of water that lay nestled between rolling hills, or cradled in deep basins carved long ago by glaciers and rivers. Their surfaces reflected everything: the endless skies, the towering conifers, the sweep of ferns along the banks. To approach one of these lakes was to step into a realm of peace. Imagine walking through the dense greenery of the Mesozoic forest, where the cicadas drone endlessly and the heavy footsteps of sauropods echo in the distance. The air is thick with humidity and the smell of damp earth. Then, suddenly, the trees part. Before you stretches a vast calm sheet of water so perfectly still that you cannot tell where the forest ends and the reflection begins. The only movement is the occasional shimmer of dragonfly wings skimming across the surface, or the faint ripple of a breeze drifting down from the hills. It is as though the world is holding its breath. This lake is alive, though it hides its life beneath its quiet exterior. Look closely at the shallows. The reeds tremble as amphibians shift among them, their slick bodies breaking the surface with quick, darting motions. Frogs, primitive and yet timeless in their form, release low croaks that roll across the water. In soft rhythm, each sound is swallowed by the openness of the space, giving it a hollow echo that makes the lake seem even larger, even emptier. And yet, it is not empty at all. Dragonflies patrol the air above the water, their wings catching glimmers of sunlight. They are giants compared to the insects of our time, with wingspans stretching wider than your hand. Each pass over the surface sends faint ripples outward, as though they leave trails of soundless energy behind them. Occasionally, they pause mid-flight, hovering with impossible grace before darting away with a sudden flicker. To listen to them is to hear nothing but the faintest buzz, a rhythm that blends into the breath of the lake, the fish beneath the surface. Move silently, their shadows flickering just below the glassy calm. From time to time, a ripple spirals outward, the only sign of a mouth breaking the surface to snatch an insect. These movements are rare and subtle, almost reluctant, as though the fish too are reluctant to disturb the stillness. When they do, the sound is a whisper, a soft plop, a gentle circle widening until it fades once more. At the edges of the lake, amphibians bask upon smooth stones, soaking up the warmth of the sun. Their skin glistens in the light, mottled in shades of brown and green that match the reeds around them. They are the descendants of pioneers, creatures that long ago had begun to crawl from water to land. Here, at the lake, they exist in both worlds, silent swimmers beneath the water and quiet crawlers along the shore. Their calls rise in scattered intervals, not a chorus, but a collection of solitary notes, each adding to the lake's gentle music. Now, the breeze picks up. It is not strong, just enough to ripple the surface. The reflection shivers, breaking into fragments of blue sky and green foliage. The sound of the breeze is softer here than in the forest, as though the water absorbs and calms it. Reeds along the banks sway in rhythm, whispering against one another. The ripples spread outward, fade, and once again the lake returns to silence. This is a place that draws the great creatures as well. From the trees emerges a small herd of hadrosaurs, their beaked faces lowered as they move in slow procession to the water's edge. Their steps are steady, muffled by the soft ground, until the first reaches the shore. For a moment, they pause, their eyes scanning the lake's surface. Then one leans forward, breaking the mirror with its beak as it drinks. Ripples cascade outward, widening across the water. More follow, and soon the stillness is broken by the rhythm of peaceful giants drinking, their breath rising in soft huffs, their low rumbles vibrating through the air like distant thunder. Yet even this is not disruption. It is harmony. Their presence seems natural, as though the lake welcomes them. Further along the shoreline, a stegosaur lumbers forward, its plates casting long reflections in the water. It lowers its head, dipping its beak delicately as though careful not to disturb the peace. The sight of such immense creatures moving with such gentleness is humbling. They leave no violence here, only calm companionship. Bird-like creatures, small and feathered, flutter along the reeds, snapping up insects disturbed by the dinosaurs' movement. Their calls are light, delicate, like notes of a flute scattered on the breeze. They rise and fall quickly, never lingering long enough to overwhelm the soundscape. Each voice is just a single accent to the whole, a brushstroke of sound across the canvas of stillness. Now the light begins to shift. The sun, once high above, starts its slow descent toward the horizon. The sky glows amber, and the reflection upon the lake deepens, becoming richer, more golden. Dragonflies still hover, their wings now catching the warm light and glowing as though made of glass. Amphibians grow louder, their calls stretching into the lengthening shadows. The hadrosaurs retreat, their heavy bodies fading back into the forest, leaving only ripples that settle gradually into calm. With dusk comes transformation. The first stars begin to pierce the sky, and they appear too in the lake, doubled in. Reflection. It is as though you stand between two heavens, one above, one below. The silence deepens. Even the insects, so insistent during the day, soften their rhythm. The water grows darker, hiding its fish, its amphibians. And yet, the calm is not empty. It is full of presence, of life waiting quietly. Occasionally, you hear the distant call of a nocturnal hunter echoing from the forest. Perhaps a small theropod prowls under the trees, but it does not come to the lake. Here, the stillness holds sway. Predators and prey alike respect the quiet of this place. It is a sanctuary, not by law but by atmosphere, as if the lake itself demands reverence. Night fully arrives. The moon, pale and luminous, rises above the horizon. Its reflection shimmers upon the water, rippling with every faint movement of air. Frogs continue their chorus, their voices carrying over the stillness, joined by the occasional trill of insects. Fireflies drift along the reeds, their lights flickering like sparks cast across the dark water. And in this moment, standing at the lake's edge, listening, you realize the gift of this place. It is not the drama of hunts, nor the spectacle of giants clashing. It is the opposite, the miracle of peace. A world where life pauses, where creatures gather not to fight or to flee, but to share stillness. The lake holds their reflections, and in holding them, it holds their essence. Fleeting moments of calm in a world of change. The lakes of stillness remind us that even in the age of dinosaurs, even in a time of unimaginable beasts and raw survival, there were moments of quiet, beauty. They were the breathing spaces of the ancient world, mirrors of sky, keepers of silence, sanctuaries of life. To listen to them is to be reminded that peace, too, has always been part of the Earth's story. Chapter 13. Coastal breezes of the Cretaceous. Air is heavy with salt. A breeze stirs gently across the shoreline, carrying with it the scent of ancient oceans and the rhythm of waves that have touched this land for millions of years. The Cretaceous coast is alive, yet it does not rush. It breathes slowly, steadily, in harmony with the rise and fall of the tides. Each wave that approaches and retreats feels like the pulse of time itself, a calm rhythm that has existed long before humans ever walked the earth. The sand beneath these ancient skies glistens, damp from the tide that lingers just moments longer before pulling back. Gentle surf crashes in soft rolls, not in violence but in whispers, leaving trails of foam that curl and dissolve into the wet shoreline. The wind brushes across the open expanse, bending low the ferns and conifer-like shrubs that dot the coastal edge. The breeze is neither harsh nor biting. It is cool, soothing, and endlessly patient, a constant companion to the seas that cradle this world. Above, the sky stretches vast and pale. Gulls as we know them do not yet exist, but their ancestors fill the skies. Ethiernes, bird-like, yet still bearing the legacy of their reptilian past, circle in wide arcs overhead. Their calls pierce the quiet, sharp notes echoing off the water before fading into the sound of waves. Occasionally, they dive with precision, folding their wings, and slicing into the shallows with barely a splash, emerging with wriggling fish clasped in narrow beaks. Further out at sea, the larger Hesperornis swim with skill, wings reduced to paddles that guide them underwater, their movements more like seals than birds. They surface for air with a quick splash, shake their heads free of droplets, then disappear. Again into the blue. The shoreline stretches in both directions, an endless horizon where ocean kisses land. Here and there, driftwood from ancient forests is washed ashore, its bark long worn smooth by water, lying half buried in the sand like the bones of forgotten trees. Around them, crabs scuttle sideways, digging small burrows before the tide can reclaim them. The beach itself hums with hidden life, burrowing insects beneath the sand, tiny lizards darting from one shadow to the next, and delicate dragonflies gliding just above the pools left behind by retreating water. The breeze, carries sound as much as it does scent. It threads through the landscape like music, weaving together every note into one continuous song. The slow crash of waves, the thin cries of seabirds, the rustle of fronds bending to the wind, all of it merges into a single coastal harmony. Each gust of air feels alive, brushing over scales, feathers, leaves, and water alike. The Cretaceous coast is not silent, but it does not shout. It speaks in whispers, its voice soft but endless. A small herd of hadrosaurs lingers just inland, their bulky forms partly hidden by the fringe of coastal vegetation. They are cautious here on the open sand, where visibility stretches wide. Yet thirst draws them closer. Slowly, they move forward, heavy feet pressing into the wet ground, leaving prints that will remain until the tide washes them away. They lower their heads to drink from shallow pools where freshwater streams mingle with the sea. Their low, resonant calls rumble across the beach, deep and calming, like distant drums echoing through the air. Even in their size, there is gentleness. They move without haste, blending seamlessly into the tranquil rhythm of this place. Far out in the distance, the horizon shimmers beneath the afternoon sun. The water reflects light like liquid glass, only broken when a school of fish breaks the surface in a quick, glittering spray. The calm is interrupted only briefly before returning again to stillness. Sometimes shadows move beneath the surface, large marine reptiles gliding silently in the deeper waters. Mosasaurs, apex predators of these seas, pass far from shore, their sleek bodies propelling them with powerful tails. They rarely approach the shallow coast, but their presence is felt even from a distance. The breeze seems to shift when they rise for air, a faint splash that echoes across the expanse before silence swallows it whole again. As the day wears on, the coast shifts its colors. Morning's pale light gives way to the golden warmth of late afternoon. The waves now shimmer with hues of amber, and each crest catches the sun before breaking. Shadows grow longer on the sand. Pterosaurs, the lords of the sky, ride the coastal winds with ease, wings outstretched as they glide just above the surface of the water. Some are small, quick, darting like oversized seabirds, while others are giants with wingspans wider than a small plane. They tilt effortlessly in the breeze, riding the thermals rising off the sea, their silhouettes vast against the sky. Their cries, sharp and unfamiliar, echo across the coastline, blending with the steady lull of the waves. Near the edge of the tide, tidal pools glisten like mirrors, reflecting the sky above. Small fish and ancient crustaceans remain trapped within them, awaiting the sea's return. Dragonflies hover above, their delicate wings catching the fading light. Occasionally, a frog-like amphibian leaps from the rocks into the shallows, creating gentle ripples that spread outward before fading. Each detail is quiet, yet together they create a tapestry of sound and motion, the coastal symphony of the Cretaceous. As evening approaches, the air cools. The breeze softens, and the sea's voice deepens, waves rolling in with slower, heavier tones. The cries of ichthyones fade as they retreat to safer nesting grounds. The great pterosaurs fold their wings and settle upon cliffs that overlook the ocean. The hadrosaur herd drifts back inland, leaving only footprints pressed into the damp sand. Shadows lengthen into twilight, and the coastline exhales, as though the entire world prepares for sleep. The sun sinks, painting the horizon in streaks of orange and purple. The last light reflects across the still water, shimmering like fire before melting into darkness. The breeze remains, soft, cool, steady, whispering through the ferns and across the waves. Insects begin their nighttime chorus, filling the silence with a low hum. The stars reveal themselves one by one, their light mirrored on the glass-like surface of the tide. Night along the Cretaceous coast is not empty, but it is hushed. The ocean continues its rhythm, the eternal heartbeat of the earth. Somewhere offshore, A mosasaur surfaces briefly, its movement marked only by a faint splash. In the distance, the faint silhouettes of seabird ancestors rise against the moonlit sky, their wings catching silver light as they glide silently across the night air. The wind continues to move, weaving across sea and land, carrying with it the timeless music of waves, the breath of the ocean, and the quiet history of a world in motion. The coastal breezes never cease. They move across ages, brushing against feather, scale, leaf, and stone alike. They are the link between sea and land, between day and night, between past and present. To sit on this shoreline is to hear time itself, patient, endless, and serene. The Cretaceous coast holds no urgency, no haste. Only the calm rhythm of the ocean, the steady breath of the earth, and the gentle promise that life, in all its forms, will continue to move with the tides. Chapter 14. Ancient Desert Winds. The desert has always been a place of whispers. Even in the prehistoric past, long before human eyes ever gazed across sand and stone, there were vast stretches of arid wilderness, quiet, mysterious, and timeless. These were landscapes shaped not by rivers or forests, but by the persistent breath of the wind. The wind sculpted dunes into waves that seemed to roll endlessly, carving delicate ridges one day and toppling them the next. In the stillness of these ancient deserts, the air itself became a voice, carrying with it the sigh of ages that imagined standing at the heart of a Mesozoic desert. The horizon stretches without end, an ocean of shifting dunes glowing in pale gold. Beneath the midday sun, the air shimmers with heat, the ground cracked and dry beneath your feet. There's no sound of rushing rivers or rustling leaves, only the hushed whistle of the wind as it passes through grains of sand, moving them one by one, endlessly rearranging the face of the desert. The stillness feels absolute, and yet, if you listen carefully, there is music here. The desert's voice is soft but persistent, a harmony made of whispers, sighs, and the low hum of air moving through endless space. A day in the life of a survivor on a blistering morning. A small reptile something, like an early desert lizard, pushes its head above the sand. Its eyes are narrow slits against the light, its scales patterned in muted browns and tans to match the ground. To survive here is not to fight the desert, but to hide within it. Every movement must be careful, timed with the wind. The little creature scuttles quickly across open ground, each step leaving faint tracks that the next gust erases. It pauses by a cracked stone, its body pressed flat to blend with the surface, watching for danger. Above, a shadow briefly crosses the sand, the wing of a small pterosaur gliding silently, its sharp eyes scanning the ground for movement. Lizard does not dare move. It waits, pressed into stillness, until the shadow passes. Then, in a quick dart, it disappears into the shelter of a dune. Safe for now. This reptile's day is a balance of hunger and caution. It emerges in the cooler evening hours to feed on insects carried by the wind, scurrying after the faint rustle of legs in the sand. When the sun burns high, it burrows into the cooler depths beneath the dunes, waiting out the furnace above. The desert is harsh, but it is not empty. Life survives here by listening to the wind, the sand, and the silence. The singing of the sands as the day deepens, the dunes begin to shift. Sand slides down their slopes in sudden cascades, producing a low hum, a resonance that vibrates through the air. Ancient travelers, long after the age of dinosaurs, would call this the song of the desert, but it was present long before human ears could imagine it. A deep, vibrating tone rising from the earth itself, as if the dunes were living things with voices of their own. The wind triggers the sound, the grains moving in harmony, each tiny particle playing its part in a great hidden instrument. To stand near such a dune is to feel the vibration in your chest, as though the land is speaking in tones too ancient for language. It is a sound at once eerie and calming, a reminder that the desert is never truly silent, It sings in ways beyond ordinary hearing. Storm. Over the dunes, the calm is deceptive. In deserts, storms come suddenly, unannounced. The first sign is often the sky. Clouds gather on the horizon, thin at first, then swelling into dark walls that move swiftly across the open land. The wind, once gentle, sharpens into a sharp hiss. It pulls at the dunes, lifting sand into the air, and within minutes the sky turns hazy, the sun veiled in a golden-brown curtain. Then the storm arrives. The wind roars, no longer a whisper but a voice of fury. Sand lifts in great spirals, whirling into walls that move like living things. Lightning flashes, a blinding strike against the horizon, followed by thunder that rolls endlessly across the barren expanse. For a moment, the desert is transformed into chaos, a sea of dust and sound, where vision is lost and the world seems to vanish. Small creatures huddle in burrows, sealing themselves in with sand. The little reptile from earlier presses deeper. Underground, sensing the storm's violence. Above, dunes collapse and reform, their slopes torn apart, reshaped in minutes. The sound is overwhelming. The howl of the storm, the hiss of sand striking stone, the deep rumble of thunder overhead. Yet even here, in this violence, there is beauty. The storm is not destruction, but transformation. When it passes, the desert will not be the same. The dunes will have shifted, new shapes carved, old paths erased. The desert renews itself with every storm. Nightfall over the sands, when the storm finally drifts away, silence returns. The winds soften, the air cools, and the desert seems to breathe again. Night descends swiftly, the sky turning a deep, infinite black. Stars emerge in dazzling clarity, so many, so bright, that the heavens seem to open like a vast ocean above. Desert at night is not lifeless. In the stillness, new voices rise. Insects begin their chorus, their chirps and hums weaving into the steady whisper of the wind. Small mammals emerge, their feet pattering faintly against the sand. Somewhere in the distance, a larger reptile, perhaps an early predator, lets out a rasping call. A sound swallowed quickly by the vastness. The sands themselves continue their song. In the cool air, the grains shift gently, producing faint murmurs. The desert is alive, but in a way so subtle that one must lean into silence to hear it. Each sound is small, delicate, but together they form a music unlike any other. Eternal breath, the desert is patient. It has no need to rush, no need to shout. Its power lies in time, in the endless repetition of wind, in the slow but certain reshaping of the land. Long before humans, long before even dinosaurs, there were deserts. And long after, deserts will remain. The ancient desert winds carried more than sand, they carried memory. They whispered over the bones of long vanished creatures, across the stones of ancient seas now dry, over plants long fossilized. They were the keepers of silence, sculptors of the land, and voices of a world that often spoke not in shouts or roars, but in gentle sighs. To listen to them is to hear the desert itself breathing, a timeless rhythm that has never truly ceased. The winds you feel today, brushing across your cheek, are kin to those that swept across the dunes of the Mesozoic. They are echoes of an eternal song, a song of patience, of silence, of endurance. The desert does not forget. It remembers in its sands, in its winds, in its quiet. To walk here, or to imagine walking here, is to enter a world where time feels different, stretched, eternal. It is to realize that even emptiness has a voice, and that silence itself can sing. Chapter 15: Volcanoes and Fire Mountains. In the prehistoric world, not all landscapes were calm lakes, whispering forests, or endless deserts. Some corners of the earth were defined by fire. Towering mountains belched smoke and molten rock. Rivers of lava flowed slowly across hardened plains, and the sky itself seemed to burn with the reflection of eruptions far in the distance. These were the fire mountains, the volcanoes of the Mesozoic, ancient sentinels whose presence shaped both the land and the life that dared to exist nearby. Imagine standing at the edge of a cooled lava field, where blackened rock stretches for miles, jagged and uneven underfoot. The air carries a faint sulfuric scent, a reminder of the molten rivers that still flow beyond the horizon. In the distance, a volcano rumbles, low and constant. A deep vibration felt more in the chest than heard with the ears. Occasionally, the peak glows a dull red as molten rock slowly rises, spilling over into streams of fire that snake down the mountain's slope. From here, even the air seems to shimmer with heat, and the land hums a quiet, almost hypnotic rhythm, the pulse of a living planet. The soundscape of these volcanic regions is not chaotic, as one might expect. Yes, there are eruptions, yes, there is fire, but the world of the fire mountains is far more complex. Lava flows steadily, not in sudden bursts but in measured glowing paths that seem deliberate. The movement of molten rock produces a low, resonant crackling, a sound both primal and strangely soothing. Ash clouds drift lazily above, settling in slow spirals over the plains and forests below. The wind catches the ash, carrying fine gray particles across great distances, softening the harsh outlines of cooled lava fields and blending with the distant roar of rumbling peaks. Life in these fiery zones is cautious but persistent. Near the edges of lava flows, hardy plants, early ferns, and seed plants cling to life, their roots finding moisture in cracks in cooled soil. Insects buzz among the sparse foliage, their tiny wings brushing against the hot air, each movement measured, careful. Small reptiles slither across the blackened rock, scales reflecting the glow of distant lava, pausing only when the ground grows too hot or when a low rumble shakes the landscape. The very presence of life here is a testament to resilience, a quiet miracle against a backdrop of fire and smoke. The sky above the volcanoes tells its own story. Ash clouds rise like mountains themselves, dark and imposing, illuminated from within by flashes of lightning born of static charges in the particulate-heavy air. These flashes crack the sky with brief, electric brilliance, illuminating the lava fields and casting long shadows over the rugged terrain. The combination of fire, smoke, and sudden light creates a surreal landscape, almost dreamlike in its intensity. Yet even in this, there is calm, a rhythm to the eruptions, a pattern to the chaos, a meditation in motion. Approach a river of lava, and you can see the subtle shifts in color as it cools. The edges turn black first, crusting over, while the molten interior continues to flow, orange and glowing beneath a fragile shell. Occasionally, a small fragment breaks away, rolling slowly down the slope, cooling rapidly into jagged black stone. The sound is not loud, not violent. It is a soft pop, a gentle hiss, almost imperceptible against the constant hum of the mountain. It is the language of fire. A quiet conversation between heat and stone. Evening brings a change. The sun dips low behind peaks, turning the sky to deep red and gold. Shadows stretch across lava plains, and the glow from molten rivers seems brighter. Against the dimming light, life continues its quiet movements. Insects and small reptiles retreat to cracks and cooler areas. Plants close their fronds, conserving moisture and waiting for night. Somewhere distant, a larger predator, perhaps a theropod, moves along the foothills, its silhouette outlined against the glowing horizon. Cautious but drawn by the smells of life that survive even here, night over the fire mountains is an experience of contrasts. The air cools significantly, but the glow of molten rock continues to paint the surroundings with light. Ash settles gently, coating everything in a fine layer, softening sounds and muting motion. The low rumble of distant eruptions mixes with the whisper of wind over cooled lava fields. Star-filled skies pierce through gaps in smoke clouds, and the reflection of light from flowing lava creates a surreal mirror of fiery constellations on the ground. The land breathes, slow and steady, A rhythm felt more than heard, a heartbeat in time with the ancient earth itself. From a distance, one can see multiple volcanoes in a range, their peaks glowing intermittently as magma rises and falls, their clouds of ash drifting together, merging into a single hazy ceiling over the horizon. The low rumbles combine with occasional pops and crackles from lava flows to form a continuous, meditative soundtrack, both powerful and calming. The desert-like plains surrounding the fire mountains contrast with their violent beauty, offering safe refuges for life that thrives in the periphery, plants taking root in cooled lava, small reptiles navigating the heat, insects and tiny mammals emerging cautiously from nocturnal shelters. The interaction of wind and fire shapes the landscape continuously. Hot air rising from molten rock meets cooler breezes, creating gentle currents that move ash and dust across fields, forming miniature dunes and shifting patterns on the black stone. Occasional gusts carry the scent of smoke and minerals across vast distances, a sensory map of the volcanic terrain. Lightning and ash clouds punctuates this world with bursts of light, revealing the enormity and scale of the fire mountains. Each flash illuminates the land in stark contrast, a reminder of the raw energy still present in these ancient peaks. Morning brings calm after the night's quiet drama. The first light paints the peaks in pale pink and orange, and the glow of molten rivers softens under the rising sun. Life emerges slowly. Small reptiles, previously hidden, scuttle across cooled fields in search of food. Insects take flight, once more, their wings catching early light. Ferns and other hardy plants reach upward, seeking the warmth and light needed for growth. Even the volcanoes themselves, though still rumbling in distant peaks, seem less imposing in the soft glow, their energy now a gentle hum rather than an explosive roar. The fire mountains of the Mesozoic are more than destructive forces. They are part of the Earth's natural rhythm. Their eruptions, flows, and clouds of ash are not just events, but ongoing processes that sculpt the world, create habitats, and set the stage for life to adapt. The silence between eruptions is as significant as the eruptions themselves. It is a time for the land to cool, for creatures to move cautiously, and for life to persist amidst the constant presence of fire. To stand among the volcanoes is to experience both awe and serenity. The sight of glowing rivers of lava, the hum of the earth beneath your feet, the whisper of wind through ash-strewn peaks, all combine into a meditative experience. Life has carved a niche here, finding balance on the edge of destruction. The fire mountains are timeless, their presence a reminder of the power, persistence, and quiet beauty of our prehistoric world. Even long after eruptions cease, the cooled lava fields hold memory. The shapes of flows, the cracks were molten. Rock cooled first, the gentle curves of ash-covered slopes all speak of a world alive with energy, a landscape in perpetual motion, yet strangely still. To listen closely is to hear the earth itself breathe, its voice carried in the low rumbles. The crackles of lava, the whispering winds, and the distant flash of lightning. The fire mountains are alive, but not in the way we imagine life. They live in rhythm, in persistence, in the subtle balance between creation and destruction. In the distance, the volcanoes continue to glow faintly even as night deepens, casting pale light across blackened plains. Life persists, cautiously but steadily, insects, reptiles, and plants marking time against the backdrop of fire. And the wind carries it all, the warmth, the ash, the hum of Earth's own heartbeat, reminding anyone who listens that the prehistoric world was a place of both fury and calm, destruction and meditation, and that even in the face of fire, there is stillness worth savoring. Chapter 16. The hidden swamps in the heart of the prehistoric world, where the sun casts dappled light through dense, towering reeds. The hidden swamps of the Mesozoic breathe in quiet rhythms. These wetlands are ancient, timeless, and alive with sound, though it is a sound often overlooked. Water laps gently against moss-covered banks. Dragonflies skim across the mirrored surface of ponds, their wings catching the glint of morning. Sun, somewhere beneath the murky water, fish stir, sending ripples across the surface. The swamp is alive, yet it moves at its own unhurried pace, a world suspended in a delicate balance between water, land, and the creatures that inhabit it. Morning. Mist rises, curling over the ponds and streams, softening every sound. Croaks echo from the bank's amphibians calling to one another, their voices merging into a low, rolling chorus. Occasionally, a splash interrupts the gentle rhythm as a fish darts through reeds or a small reptile slips into hiding. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying plant matter, a heady aroma that tells the story of life teeming quietly beneath the water's surface. This is a world where subtlety reigns. The movements are small, the sounds soft, yet each is a vital thread in the tapestry of swamp life. Along the edge of the ponds, early turtles bask on logs, shells glinting in sunlight that filters through. The reeds, their slow movements, deliberate and cautious, speak of a life adapted to the rhythm of water and wind. Small dinosaurs, cautious and alert, pick their way along muddy banks, their feet sinking softly into the damp soil. They move carefully, pausing at the edge of the water to drink or hunt for small prey. The swamp rewards patience. Those who rush are met with hidden dangers beneath the murky surface. Dragonflies dominate the airspace above the water, weaving in delicate patterns. Their iridescent wings shimmer as they catch the light, skimming just above the surface or resting briefly on the reeds. Insects of all kinds add their subtle voices to the symphony, the hum of bees and early flowering plants, the gentle buzz of wings stirring the still morning air. Each sound is small, fleeting, yet contributes to the overall sense of life that pulses softly through the wetlands. Beneath the surface, life thrives in unseen complexity. Fish weave through the submerged roots of reeds, their scales flashing like liquid silver. Amphibians, some tiny and nimble, others larger and more imposing, navigate the underwater forest, hunting insects or avoiding predators. Small reptiles lurk near the edges, scanning for both food and threats. Even the water itself is alive with subtle movement currents weaving around roots, small bubbles rising as oxygen escapes from decomposing plants, the occasional snap of a turtle or fish breaking the surface. The interplay of sunlight and mist transforms the swamp into a place of quiet wonder. Golden beams pierce the reeds, illuminating suspended droplets of moisture like floating gems. Shadows play across the water, creating shifting patterns that move with the breeze. The reeds themselves sway gently, brushing against one another with soft whispers that mingle with the croaks, hums, and splashes of the swamp. It is a living painting, a harmonious blend of sound, movement, and light. Crafted over millions of years, life in these swamps is constantly adapting. Small dinosaurs, perhaps early ornithischians, move cautiously along the banks, stopping to graze on soft plant matter or sip from clear pools. Tiny mammals scurry through the undergrowth, their presence almost imperceptible amidst the chorus of water and insects. Predatory reptiles patrol the waters and banks, moving slowly, their eyes scanning for opportunity. Even the smallest creatures understand the rhythms of the swamp, timing their movements with wind and water, sunlight and shadow to survive in this quiet, teeming world. The midday sun intensifies, warming the reeds and water, and the sounds of the swamp change subtly. The croaks of amphibians slow, replaced by the gentle rustle of leaves and the soft splash of fish. Dragonflies take refuge in shaded pockets, their iridescent wings catching brief shafts of light. The wind whispers through the reeds, carrying faint scents of plants in wet soil, connecting every part of the swamp with invisible threads. The swamp's voice is ever-changing, yet always harmonious like a calm, evolving melody. Occasionally, the calm is punctuated by sudden motion. A fish leaps from the water in a silver arc, only to disappear with a splash. A larger reptile emerges from the reeds, its scaled body glistening with moisture, moving gracefully despite its size. The swamp's creatures are attuned to every subtle shift, the ripple of water, the hum of wind, the change in light. Life here is a delicate negotiation, a continuous dance with the forces of water, air, and the passage of time. As afternoon fades into evening, the light softens, painting the reeds and water in shades of amber and deep green. Shadows lengthen, and the chorus of croaks rises once more. The wind slows, and the swamp exhales in quiet sighs as the temperature drops. Insects resume flight, dragonflies dance above pools, and amphibians become more vocal, their calls echoing softly across the water. The interplay of movement, sound, and light creates a serene, almost magical atmosphere, a reminder that even in a world dominated by survival, there is space for calm and reflection. Night in the swamp is transformative. The mist thickens, curling around the reeds and pools, creating an ethereal landscape where shapes blur and sounds become amplified. Croaks, hums, and splashes combine into a gentle symphony, carrying across the water and into the distance. Small creatures emerge from their burrows, navigating by moonlight and starlight. The wind moves softly over the reeds, adding a delicate accompaniment to the natural orchestra. Even the water participates, reflecting the faint light of the moon. And the shadows of creatures gliding through its depths, the hidden swamps of the Mesozoic, are places of patience, persistence, and subtlety. They remind us that life does not always need grandeur to be profound. In these reedy wetlands, every splash, every whisper, every croak carries meaning. The land, water, and sky move in concert, creating a meditative rhythm that has existed for millions of years. To inhabit this space, even imaginatively, is to understand the quiet resilience of life, the delicate balance between creatures and environment, and the timeless serenity of deep, wet places untouched by the haste of the world beyond. By the late night, as stars reflect in the calm waters, the swamp exhales once more. Dragonflies rest on reeds, amphibians cease their calls for brief intervals, and the water mirrors the infinite sky. The hidden swamps carry the stories of countless creatures across time, of survival, of quiet triumph, of the soft persistence of life in a world defined by patience and subtle rhythms. Even in stillness, the swamp moves, breathes, and endures, a living testament to the profound calm of prehistoric Earth. Chapter 17. Twilight of the Giants. As the sun begins its slow descent toward the horizon, the prehistoric world enters a hush, a golden hour lull that blankets forests, plains, and rivers alike. The giants of the Mesozoic, the towering sauropods, the broad-shouldered stegosaurs, and the majestic ceratopsians move through the landscape with deliberate calm, each step pressing the rhythm of life into the soft earth. Their immense presence is both awe-inspiring and gentle. The very land seems to bend beneath their weight, yet they walk with surprising serenity, like slow-moving shadows painting the world in silhouette against the amber sky. The forests are quiet, but not silent. Leaves shimmer as a light breeze passes through the canopy, whispering above the giant creatures. Somewhere in the distance, the faint croak of amphibians echoes from a hidden stream, blending with the occasional call of a distant pterosaur drifting across the sky. Streams glint with reflected sunlight, rippling softly as small fish stir beneath the surface. Even in the presence of these titanic beings, life continues in quiet, delicate patterns, each creature adapting to the rhythm of the giant's movement and the fading light. In the sprawling plains, herds of sauropods graze slowly. Their long necks reach high into the trees, plucking leaves with careful precision, while their massive legs sink slightly into the soft soil with every step. Occasionally, a juvenile struggles to keep pace, its tiny head bobbing beneath the enormous shadow of its parents. The air is filled with a low, resonant rumble, the sound of deep throats calling to one another across distances that stretch hundreds of meters. There is an unexpected intimacy in these sounds, a reminder that even giants communicate, coordinate, and share moments of quiet together. Across the riverbanks, stegosaurs move with a deliberate grace, their armored backs catching the fading sun. Each plate along their spine glows faintly, reflected in the water below. They step carefully along muddy banks, aware of the water's edge, occasionally pausing to drink or nibble on low-lying ferns. The rhythmic slap of their heavy feet against the earth becomes part of the twilight symphony, mingling with the soft rustle of plants and the distant hum of insects stirring in the cooling air. Above it all, the sky transforms into a painter's canvas. Clouds catch the last golden rays, streaked with deep orange, crimson, and violet. The setting sun casts long shadows across the land, stretching the silhouettes of giants into monumental forms. Pterosaurs glide gracefully against this vibrant backdrop, wings slicing silently through the air. Their calls are rare, but when they come, they echo across canyons and river valleys, weaving with the ambient soundscape into a delicate, almost musical overlay. The sky itself feels alive, a companion to the creatures below as they navigate the final hours of the day. Nightfall approaches gradually. The light softens, and the world takes on muted shades of blue and gray. The giants begin to settle in. Safe areas, dense forests for protection, river valleys for easy access to water, open plains where they can see predators coming from afar. Sounds shift subtly. The deep rumbles of communication give way to quieter movements. Branches creak under enormous weight, reeds rustle softly in the wind, and occasional splashes echo from ponds as small creatures venture out under the cooling sky. Even the air seems to slow, carrying a calm, almost meditative rhythm. Life in the twilight is a careful dance. Small mammals and reptiles emerge cautiously, scuttling across the forest floor, hiding beneath rocks or logs. Insects resume their soft evening chorus, wings brushing gently against leaves. Amphibians call from pools and rivers, their voices echoing with a haunting serenity that blends with the low hum of distant giants. Each creature participates in this subtle orchestra, aware of the giant's presence, yet confident enough to continue the quiet rituals of feeding, hunting, and moving through the twilight world. Occasionally, the giants pause to drink or graze. The rippling of water from enormous limbs pressing into streams creates echoes that travel across the plains. Insects take flight, startled briefly, then resume their delicate flight patterns. Leaves drop gently into the water, forming tiny ripples that shimmer in the last light. The world is alive in stillness, every movement measured, every sound deliberate, each a small part of the vast, interconnected web of life. The interplay of wind and foliage adds texture to the symphony. A gentle breeze carries the scent of damp earth, crushed vegetation, and faint musky odors from the giants themselves. Reeds and grasses sway, producing subtle swishes that mingle with the distant calls of birds and reptiles. The atmosphere feels suspended, as though time itself has slowed to accommodate the quiet grandeur of these creatures. Twilight is not merely a moment between day and night. Here, it is a sacred space where the prehistoric world exhales in serenity. As darkness deepens, shadows converge, and the horizon loses its fire, the giants' silhouettes dissolve into the dim light. Eyes adapted to twilight catch fleeting movements, the cautious scurry of a small predator, the glint of fish in slow-moving streams, the flutter of nocturnal insects rising from reeds. Night is imminent, yet the transition is gentle, almost imperceptible. Sounds grow softer, rhythms slower, until the world is wrapped in a calm, contemplative stillness. The final moments of day are a meditation on scale and connection. Each giant dinosaur, though immense and commanding, participates in the subtle balance of the ecosystem. Their movements shape the land, their calls ripple across valleys, their presence defines spaces for smaller creatures to thrive. Twilight is the great equalizer moments where predator and prey, mammal and reptile, insect and giant, all exist together in a carefully measured harmony. The day's end is both a conclusion and a promise. Life continues, adapting, persisting, and coexisting across the vast prehistoric landscapes dot in the distance. Forests darken, rivers reflect the fading sky, and plains stretch endlessly into shadow. The giants settle fully, their final rumbles dissolving into the ambient hum of night. Small creatures claim the spaces left open, moving quietly, calling softly, completing the nocturnal chorus that continues after the titanic figures have paused. The world breathes, a living testament to the patience, resilience, and interconnectedness of prehistoric life. The last light of twilight paints a fleeting memory across the land. Every step, every call, every gentle rustle becomes a part of the deep time symphony. The giants, magnificent and enduring, are both guardians and participants in this grand orchestration. As darkness settles fully, the prehistoric earth becomes a living meditation, a reminder that even in silence, life resonates, and that the echoes of giants, forests, rivers, and swamps continue in the quiet persistence of time. By the end of twilight, the world feels complete. The sun has set, the sky fades into deep indigo, stars begin to appear, and the soft symphony of nocturnal life takes over. Yet within it, the memory of the giants lingers, their shadow, their movement, their presence woven into the sounds, scents, and subtle rhythms of the prehistoric night. It is a moment of calm awe, a fitting tribute to the immense creatures that once walked, grazed, and called this ancient world home. The twilight of the giants is not merely the end of a day, it is a meditation on life, scale, and the delicate balance of ecosystems. It reminds us that even in a world dominated by massive, awe-inspiring beings, the smallest voices, crickets, frogs, insects, and small mammals, carry equal weight in the symphony of life. Together, in light and shadow, they form the eternal rhythm of the prehistoric earth, a rhythm that continues, echoes, and resonates across the ages. Chapter 18. Twilight across the plains. As the sun dips low over vast Mesozoic plains, the world transforms into a theater of gold and amber. Shadows stretch across tall grasses, undulating gently in the evening breeze. Herds of herbivorous dinosaurs move slowly toward watering holes, riverbeds, and sheltered groves, each step deliberate, leaving temporary imprints on the soft, sun-warmed soil. Their movements are both majestic and peaceful, a slow procession of life guided by instinct and the rhythm of the day. The plains are alive in subtle ways. Insects hover above swaying grasses, their wings catching the last light of day. Small mammals emerge from burrows, scuttling cautiously among tall ferns and low shrubs, while tiny reptiles bask on sunlit rocks one last time before nightfall. Each creature senses the shifting light and temperature, adjusting its behavior to the changing world. Even the wind seems to pause, carrying a soft, warm scent of earth and vegetation across the open plains. The sky itself is a spectacle, painted in fiery hues of orange, pink, and violet. Clouds scatter the fading sunlight in intricate patterns, reflecting off distant mountains and river valleys. Birds or their prehistoric equivalents glide above, silhouettes etched sharply against the colorful canvas. The air is filled with the soft rolling calls of distant dinosaurs, mingling with faint insect hums and the gentle rustling of leaves. It is a symphony of life preparing for rest, both dynamic and calming in its quiet order. Herds of giant sauropods stretch their long necks toward treetops and tall grasses, consuming the last bites of the day's sustenance. Their massive feet sink slightly into soft soil, sending tiny vibrations across the ground, perceptible to smaller creatures nearby. Ceratopsians move in compact groups, grazing cautiously, their horns catching the evening light. Even in their grandeur, there is a sense of calm, a gentle presence that shapes the plains, without forcing its will upon them. Predators. 2. Adjust their behavior with the approaching twilight. Smaller theropods move stealthily among the grasses, observing but not yet striking. Larger carnivores retreat to shaded areas, conserving energy for the night's hunting. The balance of predator and prey creates an underlying tension, subtle and natural, yet woven seamlessly into the tranquil rhythm of the plains. Every sound and movement is measured, deliberate, a meditation in survival. Water sources become focal points as day fades. Shallow ponds mirror the glowing sky, disturbed only by occasional fish or amphibian activity. Herbivores approach slowly, drinking carefully, alert to the subtle signs of danger. Insects buzz around the water's edge, creating a gentle ambient hum that blends with the splashes of small creatures. The interaction of land, water, and life forms a calming, meditative environment, a momentary pause before night blankets the world. As the sun sinks further, shadows deepen, stretching the silhouettes of giants across the plains. The wind stirs grasses and reeds, creating a soft whispering sound that carries across miles. Trees sway gently along riverbanks and hillsides, leaves rustling in the cooling air. Birds settle into their roosts while pterosaurs return to cliffs and treetops, wings folding in preparation for darkness. The transition from day to night is seamless, a natural crescendo of color, sound, and movement that signals the end of the day and the quiet anticipation of the night. Small details punctuate the twilight. A lizard darts across warm soil. A frog calls softly from a distant pond. The distant roar of a river echoes across a valley. These subtle sounds, often overlooked, combine into a delicate orchestration of life, illustrating the quiet complexity of the plains. Every creature, every ripple, every rustle contributes to the harmony of the environment, reinforcing a sense of calm, continuity, and deep time connection. The glow of the setting sun slowly fades to soft purples and blues, reflected across shallow water pools and the edges of hills. The air cools, carrying scents of moist soil, crushed vegetation, and the faint musk of animals returning to their resting areas. The herds settle, the predators retreat, and the plains breathe a deep, collective sigh. The rhythm of life persists, measured yet profound, and the ancient landscape exudes a sense of serenity, rarely captured in its full magnitude. Even as darkness approaches, there is no abrupt ending. Twilight across the plains is a gradual meditation, a slow, deliberate lowering of light, a gentle shift in sound, and the careful positioning of life as the night prepares to arrive. Shadows stretch, sounds soften, and the vast expanse of the plains becomes a canvas of subtle movement and delicate interactions. Every step, every rustle, every soft call contributes to the overarching symphony, a testament to the calm, patient persistence of prehistoric life. Nightfall eventually creeps in, yet the plains retain a soft glow from the lingering twilight. Silhouettes of giants stand poised, resting in quiet majesty. The wind whispers across grasslands, carrying scents and faint echoes of the day. Insects hum softly, frogs call intermittently, and distant rivers reflect the faint starlight. The plains are alive in darkness, yet enveloped in calm, a serene transition from day to night, a meditation on survival, beauty, and the slow rhythm of life across millions of years. Twilight across the plains is more than a visual moment. It is an orchestration of light, sound, movement, and life. It reminds us that even in vast, open spaces, balance is maintained. Predators and prey, insects and mammals, giants and small creatures coexist in a subtle harmony. Each contributes to the ongoing meditation of life, forming a living, breathing landscape that continues quietly, persistently, and beautifully as night fully descends. Chapter 19. The Long Cretaceous Night. As darkness settles over the Cretaceous world, the land exhales into stillness. Stars emerge, scattered across an ink-blue sky, reflecting faintly on rivers, lakes, and dew-laden foliage. Shadows stretch long and silent, obscuring the movements of both predators and prey. The earth's pulse slows in rhythm with the dimming light, and the nocturnal symphony begins subtle, profound, and mesmerizing. Crickets chirp softly from hidden crevices, their rhythmic calls forming a steady hypnotic cadence. Each note blends with the gentle rustle of leaves as the wind passes through dense forests and open plains. Small mammals scurry through undergrowth, cautious yet persistent, their tiny movements adding delicate echoes to the night soundtrack. Amphibians call intermittently from pools and rivers, a haunting melody that drifts across the still waters. Reptiles, adapted for darkness, begin their quiet patrols. Sleek, cautious theropods move among ferns and shrubs, eyes gleaming in the starlight, attentive to every subtle vibration in the earth. Their soft footfalls blend seamlessly with the ambient sounds, creating a sense of tension softened by the night's calm. Tiny predators, nocturnal in nature, hunt insects and small vertebrates, adding dynamic motion to the otherwise serene environment. Above, the sky teems with life of a different kind. Early birds and pterosaur species navigate the cool night air, calling softly or gliding silently across moonlit landscapes. Occasionally, a shadow crosses the starlight, a reminder of the scale and majesty of life in the skies above. The movement of wings, the whisper of air, and the subtle calls of aerial hunters blend harmoniously with the chorus below, creating an orchestra of both earth and sky. The long night stretches endlessly, yet time seems to move in slow, deliberate waves. Streams ripple gently as nocturnal fish stir beneath the surface. Lakes mirror the constellations above, reflecting a calm vastness broken only by occasional ripples or the subtle landing of a small animal at the water's edge. The gentle caress of wind carries the scent of damp earth, crushed vegetation, and faint musk from nearby giants resting in the distance. Predators maintain a quiet vigilance. While many rest, others move stealthily among ferns and low shrubs, eyes fixed on possible prey. The tension is never harsh or abrupt. It is a measured, natural rhythm, reminding all who watch or imagine of the balance between survival and serenity. Even in this darkness, life pulses quietly, each movement contributing to the intricate harmony of the nocturnal landscape. Insects dominate the auditory landscape. Crickets, beetles, and other night-active creatures provide a consistent, calming hum, punctuated by softer occasional calls of amphibians or the subtle rustle of leaves. The soundscape is layered, high-pitched trills, low buzzing wings. Distant water movements weave a tapestry that evokes both awe and tranquility. Every vibration is amplified by the quiet of the night, creating a deeply immersive, almost meditative experience. The faint rustle of larger animals adds texture to the night. Herbivorous dinosaurs shift in herds, low rumbles vibrating through the soil. Their massive forms are silhouetted against the moonlight, moving slowly as they settle in sheltered areas for rest. Their presence is grounding, a reminder of the scale of life that coexisted with the smaller nocturnal inhabitants. Even the smallest creatures navigate around these giants with care, their tiny movements part of the same orchestrated rhythm. As the hours pass, the Cretaceous night deepens. Stars shift across the sky, and the first hints of distant planets shimmer faintly in the darkness. A river glimmers under starlight, disturbed only by fish or insects skimming its surface. In the forests, nocturnal birds softly call, their sounds weaving through the trees like invisible threads connecting every element of the ecosystem. This is the world of the long Cretaceous night. Vast, silent in some ways, yet vibrant with subtle activity. The darkness amplifies awareness. Every sound, every motion carries significance. Predators, prey, and small insects coexist in a delicate balance, and the night itself becomes both stage and participant in this timeless meditation of life. Slowly, the night begins to hint at the approaching dawn. Shadows fade slightly as distant horizons glow faintly, preparing for the sun's eventual return. Nocturnal creatures retreat, settling into hiding spots or burrows. Rivers, lakes, and streams continue their soft murmur, a gentle counterpoint to the stillness enveloping the land. The Earth's nocturnal symphony lingers, leaving an indelible imprint of calm, wonder, and deep time resonance. By the end of the long Cretaceous night, the land feels alive yet serene. Every chirp, splash, and rustle contributes to a profound sense of continuity. Life adapts, persists, and breathes in rhythm with the slow unfolding of time. The world of night is a meditation on survival, coexistence, and the quiet beauty of the ancient Earth, an experience that prepares the landscape and the viewer for the return of light in the final chapter. Chapter 20. The Final Echoes of Prehistoric Earth. The first rays of dawn touch the ancient Earth, painting forests, plains, rivers, and mountains with soft golden light. After the long Cretaceous night, the world awakens in gentle harmony. Every leaf, ripple, and creature seems to exhale in unison, as though the planet itself is stretching. After a deep, restorative slumber, the echoes of prehistoric life linger in every corner. The whispers of wind across ancient ferns, the distant murmur of rivers, the soft movements of creatures emerging from night. In the forests, shadows recede, revealing massive trees swaying gently in the morning breeze. Birds or their prehistoric ancestors take to the skies, their wings slicing softly through the warm, fresh air. Insects hum in layered, overlapping rhythms, adding texture to the forest symphony. Even the smallest sounds, the rustle of leaves, the drip of dew from branches, carry significance in this moment, as the world reawakens with an almost sacred reverence. Across the plains, herds of herbivores stir, stretching and moving toward grazing areas. Giant sauropods lift their immense necks to feed on tender foliage, while ceratopsians shuffle cautiously among shrubs. Each movement resonates through the land, the soft rumble of a herd, the gentle thud of feet on soft soil, the swish of tails brushing against tall grass. These giants, both awe-inspiring and peaceful, remind us of the patience and rhythm embedded in ancient ecosystems. Waterways shimmer in the morning light. Lakes mirror the sky, reflecting the slow movements of small fish beneath the surface. Frogs call intermittently from the banks, and insects skim across the water's sheen. Rivers murmur quietly, guiding the flow of life across the land. Every droplet, every ripple, and every subtle sound contributes to the final orchestration of this prehistoric symphony. The water itself becomes a meditation, reflecting the continuity of life across time and space. Predators cautiously resume activity. Theropods patrol shaded areas, moving with calculated stealth, yet there is no sense of urgency. The land is balanced, a choreography of coexistence where every species, large or small, has its place and purpose. Small mammals scuttle through undergrowth, insects rise into the morning air, and amphibians bask briefly on rocks warmed by the soft light. Every life form participates in a timeless rhythm, an ongoing meditation of existence in deep time. The air is alive with scent and motion. Moist earth, flowering plants, and the subtle musk of giant herbivores blend into an aroma that seems to carry the history of the planet itself. Breezes whisper through ancient trees, carrying the soft creak of branches and the distant splash of streams. The interplay of light, sound, and scent creates a fully immersive tapestry, a living record of prehistoric Earth's elegance and complexity. As the sun rises higher, the scale of the landscape becomes fully apparent. Mountains in the distance glow with dawn's warmth. Rivers thread through valleys, and plains stretch endlessly under the sky. Giant dinosaurs traverse these expanses, their movements measured and deliberate. Juveniles play gently among adults, learning survival through observation and experience. The balance of predator, prey, and environment is maintained effortlessly, a testament to the resilience and sophistication of ancient ecosystems. In quieter corners, hidden swamps and wetlands hum softly. Reeds sway, water ripples, and frogs call. Amphibians and insects engage in subtle nocturnal routines that have spilled into morning activity. These small, often overlooked details remind us that even in the presence of immense giants, the minutiae of life remain essential, shaping the rhythm and harmony of the world. Overhead, the sky evolves into a canvas of shifting colors. Soft golds, pale blues, and faint rose hues mingle as the day advances. Pterosaurs glide across these skies, calling softly, wings catching the first intense light. Early birds and their relatives flit among treetops, adding movement and song to the visual panorama. The aerial dimension completes the orchestration. Begun in forests, lakes, rivers, and plains, tying together every element of life across prehistoric Earth. Evening memories linger as shadows shorten and the golden light strengthens. The echoes of night, the crickets, nocturnal reptiles, and soft hums of insects fade, but leave an imprint in the living memory of the land. Streams continue their soft murmur, leaves whisper in gentle wind, and creatures move rhythmically as if in silent meditation. Every sound, every subtle movement carries the resonance of millions of years of evolution and adaptation. As the day reaches its zenith, the prehistoric world stands in calm majesty. Life thrives across scales, from the smallest insects to the kung, towering giants from the shallow streams to the vast inland seas. Each organism, each ripple, and each breeze contributes to the eternal rhythm of existence. The planet itself seems to breathe, a slow, deliberate inhalation and exhalation spanning landscapes, species, and time. In these final moments, the lesson of the prehistoric Earth becomes clear. Life is persistence, balance, and coexistence. The grandeur of giants does not overwhelm the delicate. The smallest creatures are never insignificant. Every leaf, every wing beat, every rustle in the grass contributes to this symphony of life, a meditation on continuity, adaptation, and the eternal beauty of our planet's history. The final echoes of prehistoric Earth are not dramatic or abrupt. They are subtle, persistent, and profound. They reside in the quiet murmur of rivers, the soft rumble of distant giants, the delicate hum of insects, and the gentle sway of plants. They linger in the imagination, inviting reflection, wonder, and calm. Even as the viewer drifts from this ancient world, the rhythm, the balance, and the timeless serenity continue to resonate, a lasting testament to the ancient Earth and its incredible, enduring life. With the sun fully risen, life continues unabated. The prehistoric world is alive, connected, and eternal in its patterns. The echoes of mountains, rivers, forests, deserts, swamps, and plains intertwine, forming the final, serene meditation of the series. The prehistoric Earth, in all its majesty, remains a place of calm, reflection, and awe, a perfect ending to a journey through 4 hours of immersive ancient sounds and imagery.